All right, well, let's start episode 220 of the Current Gen podcast. I'm Tim. I'm here with Dan. I'm here with Kyle. Guys, I didn't wear my beanie, and I'm so sorry. I feel like there was a memo that I missed.
There
There
was, yeah.
was.
We got
Yep.
the
Per
beanie.
our last email, you did not read that
Uh,
email.
Okay.
don't say per my last email, you
Yeah.
passive aggressive.
That's the most
choke
passive aggressive office term we could ever use. I know because I use it daily at my job.
I
so-
say it all the time.
So I know exactly what it means.
Oh my gosh, it's just one of the, and I've told you guys this. That's why Dan said that. It's just one of the worst things per my
Yeah.
previous email. I mean, you might as the only time people say that too is when they're on an email chain because they want everyone else to know. I've already
sure.
told them this.
Sure.
That's all
Yeah.
that statement's doing. Like
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
if it's a one-on-one email and you're saying it and you truly are saying, just scroll up, you'll see what I said. Like maybe. But for the
Sure.
most
Yeah.
part, you're saying on an email chain and you're just flagging everyone else to know
If
this
it's
is
an
their fault.
if it's an email chain, it feels twice as good. I will say that. I will say that.
Yeah, because you're getting everybody that all their eyes are on that.
Everybody's like,
Yeah.
"Dang, did you see Kyle just ripped that guy up?" Yeah,
Yeah.
I sure did.
I mean, that's the only thing worse than that is when you're on a back and forth email with one person, all of a sudden they CC your supervisor on the next
Oh,
response
that's-
back, and you're like, "What are you doing?"
That's the like.
what
What
are
are you doing, you son of a bitch? Like, what are you?
I know what
doing?
you. Yeah.
Like, what are you
Everyone-
doing?
Anyway, so welcome to Passive Aggressive Cast. We're here to
Yeah,
talk about
right.
work-related passive aggressive things you can do, and all things that Kyle does. So he's gonna walk
Hey,
us.
you gotta be a shark to survive in these waters. You know what I mean? So
That's right.
True.
Nom, nom,
Good
nom,
point. Well, we've got some new things to talk about this week. I really like the collection of smaller games that have come out this week, so we'll highlight a few of those. And then we're going to take a little walk down memory lane in a new segment I'm calling our not so current top 10. And we're going to start doing this every once in a while where we name our top 10 things. Sometimes we'll use it as a ranking where we like debate a shared ranked list depending on the topic. This one is more of a personal list where we each share our personal top 10. So it'll be fun. We'll do some not so currents during these weeks when we have time to do so. And there's some news as well. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this, the big news, especially out of Ubisoft. Some interesting stuff. But first things first, some games are out. Specifically, the Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is out on PC. I probably two different times got pretty close to buying it, and I kept going. I mean, I've already played it all the way through.
Sure.
I played
Yeah.
lots of the DLC. I spent dozens and dozens and dozens of hours with this game, and I'm like, if I get it, I already did this with Horizon and with God of War and with Days Gone. Purchased them, I fired them up. Boy, is this cool to play on PC. Boy, is this cool to play on deck. And then I don't play any of them after my first 45 minutes revisiting those
They're
worlds.
not short games either. All those games you just
Right.
listed. So
Yeah, maybe Days Gone. I played
But
the
you did
most
for
because-
Spider-Man, so maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe if
You're
enough
right.
time
Good
passes.
memory. Yes,
you know?
Spider-Man is one that I played. Not only played through, but I think it's because I shortchanged my first playthrough of Spider-Man. I kind of flew
You
through
did
it.
say that, yeah. You said that second experience was a lot more savoring.
Yeah, the second time I just was like leaning back and
Yep.
just playing it. I don't think I 100%ed it because I didn't go do like a hard mode. So I didn't do the PC equivalent of platinuming it, but I got pretty close.
Yeah.
It's probably like 95% of the achievements or whatever. Anyway, you're right. Spider-Man's the one exception. So I keep looking at this one and I'm just like, would I? I don't know. I feel like I've dug in pretty deep on this game. I didn't mainline it. I did a ton of side stuff, so I have avoided it so far. It's just $60. I'm not sure I want to part with for this one just yet, but boy, do I love Ghost of Tsushima. It's my favorite game from 2020. It's a phenomenal game.
When I have a similar thing, when I bought like The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 remastered or remade or whatever, our word something. I just that didn't come out right. Take that out in the edit. That's all right.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll totally edit that out.
I would play for like I don't know, a couple hours. I'm like, yeah, I played these games and uninstall them. So not the same as rebuying them on Steam, but still, like there's something about like when you've already dug into a game in a big way, like I can't play this right now. Maybe later.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. So I think I will. I don't know if it'll take a sale or if it'll take that moment where I'm just really itching to revisit that game, and I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go buy it. I do know it was Sony's fourth best PC release, just in terms of like opening, couple of days of sales. I'm not sure exactly how they measured it, but concurrent players was pretty decent for a single player game compared to other Sony games. So that's good. I'm glad to know that people are trying it out. It's also interesting timing too with it releasing I think the same day that Ubisoft revealed Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
very interesting timing for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost kind of
Every-
like rising tide lifts all boats. I think the interest in that type of gameplay and world with Shogun and with both
Yeah.
of these games is kind of, I
I
would
think
think, help all of them. But I
what
don't know.
what an amazing, because there's no way they could plan like releasing in the same year as Shogun. Like there's just no way
Mm.
they could line that up. So like what a good like fortune for both of them for sure.
Yep, totally agree. So we'll talk about the Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer here in a little while too. But yeah, so Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Can't recommend it enough if you haven't played it, or if you only played it a little bit, or if you're mainly a PC gamer. Go play that game. It's so good.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
It's amazing. So go check that one out. It's beautiful. There's a few other games that have come out this week too that I thought were worth highlighting. I already mentioned a couple of them recently, like RoboBeat. I talked about playing the demo for that. It's kind of like that that rhythm-based first-person shooter game that came out a couple years ago, but
Mhm.
this one is a little bit different, but similar take. You still have the little tempo icons are like coming closer and closer, so it's nothing you haven't seen before if you've played. I always forget the name of that game. What's the name of that game?
Metal Hellsinger,
Metal Hellsinger. If you
Mm,
played that, you
which
get
is
the
the
gist of what
best
this is
one.
like.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Very
that
good.
one's
I did like
that
that
one's
one.
very metal. This one is very it still has some rock and roll vibes to it, but not nearly as hard, and a little bit more
Mm.
variety in the songs that I heard at least.
Yeah.
So there's also this game out called Mullet Madjack that I want to talk about for a few minutes. Kyle,
Me too.
tell me about this game a little bit.
I think I didn't put it together until you said, "Oh, this is like Hades." On top of everything else that it's like, and it very much so is because of the in between levels you're choosing, or in between
Yep.
rooms and stuff like that, you're choosing kind of a loadout or an upgrade or something like that. But it's also very much like Hotline Miami in both like vibes and it's very memorable score and stuff like that, and just kind of, I don't know, just being like really death focused and like multicolored. It's just very, I don't know. It reminds me a lot of Hotline Miami as well.
Yeah.
And it's just
Kind
a
of
good
that
time,
vibe of
man.
something like Running Man, or
Yeah.
what was that Rockstar game? The super violent one. No, what was it called?
Manhunt?
Was it
Oh,
Manhunt?
Manhunt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
like-
you're just
The idea of
murdering
like
people, yeah.
your murder of others, or hopefully your
Yeah.
murder is the entertainment for others. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
with,
and the I guess the idea is that you're on a 10-second like drip, and like you'll die if you don't create serotonin for the viewers. Serotonin comes from like serotonin and dopamine comes from like you killing people.
Yep.
Sure.
And then you get
And they'll
seconds.
give you likes.
Yeah, exactly. You get
Stop
seconds
it.
added for every
For real.
kill. If you shoot them in, and then you can get upgrades where if like you shoot them in the nuts, you get an extra seconds. It's
Yeah.
2 seconds, You shoot them in
Sure.
the head, you get an extra 2
Or
seconds.
or do
whatever.
a environmental kill, blow them up, or kick them into
Yeah,
a fan.
absolutely, yeah. And there's swords, there's pistols, there's shotguns, there's
Yeah.
I shot a rail cannon, there was a
Nice.
plasma rifle.
Couple
There's all
times you
sorts
can
of
slide
weapons.
and just kick everyone as you go
Oh
down.
yeah, there's a lot of
Always
segments
fun.
where you're
Yeah.
sliding down, and
Yeah.
it's just a lot of fun. And man, it's just a good vibe. This thing is so colorful and so uniquely, I don't know, animated. And it's very 80s. It's Madjack mullet. You're like an 80s mullet wearing like superhero, super cop or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. I just
It's like that
like this game
80s
so much.
futuristic vibe, right? Where it's future, but it's
Yeah.
80s. It's a cool, really cool vibe.
Yeah. Like that. What was that short that came out a long time ago? Kung Fury or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
yeah.
that. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah. Kung Fury.
Good call. Yeah. I like the
uh,
first person shooter gameplay. It feels pretty good. Everything's fast.
Yeah.
Even the shotgun, even the slower guns have a speed and quickness feel to them, which is really nice.
Yeah. There's a lot of like dashing. So if you're always kind of hitting L2, depending on what controller you're playing on, and like it's always like, bridging the gap between you and bad guys while you're shooting and yada yada. And if you actually like get the dash to them, that's how you kick them as well. So, man, this game is
or
just
a finishing
good time.
move, right? Both triggers.
Oh,
hit
that's
that
awesome. Yeah,
finishing
and
move.
that gives you all 10 seconds back and replenishes your health. So like and it's a cool like death animation, and you get a different weapon randomly to complete this death animation.
I mean, it's usually like
upon,
a punch and then you like stab him in the eye. With
Yeah,
the
yeah.
knife, and it just freezes for a second while everything refills. It's cool.
Man, when they're really close on you, like the bad guy, just the
Yeah.
character models, they're so cool looking. Like
Yeah,
they're just so rad, man. I like this game so much.
The way they
It's just
move
roguelike.
almost reminds you of like old school Doom or Wolfenstein or something, but
Yeah.
not. Like it gives me that vibe a little bit because
It's
it's like
rigid, like when like looking
Yeah.
like it feels like you're on 4 axes, even though I know there's probably some leeway there, but like there's something rigid and old school about it because it's not really about getting precise shots. It's just about killing and moving, you know?
Dude, I'm not really aiming super well in this. I'm sure there's people who play it and they're just like headshot the whole way through. More power to
Yeah.
you, man. I'm just getting enough body shots in. I love the Uzi because you can just kind of
Yeah.
hold shoot when you enter a room and just kind of like wave around near
That's
them.
kind of
And
what I do, yeah.
it's
That's
not
fun.
one shot kill, but it's a couple shots
A couple
kill.
shots, yeah.
pretty
And you
quick.
can get upgrades where like, you know, you can upgrade the weapons or your bullets do a little more damage, or you can have a chance to do explosion damage or fire damage, you know.
Yeah.
And you're constantly just not chipping away, but adding percentages every time you choose another one of those cards at the end of your run.
An extra second or
Yep.
something like that. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think I
too.
got up to like 14 seconds on my last run. Man, this game is just so cool. I
And
love
when you
little like I didn't know anything about this game. I think Jeff said he played it as a
He
demo.
did play the demo,
So
yep.
people like knew about this game, but man, I didn't know jack. So seeing this game and it was on sale too the first week that this week that it came out. It was just such an easy buy on just like looking at like the pictures alone. I was just like, yeah, I'm in on this one.
Yeah, even the opening, because it's so funny that it's on this counter. I don't know what happens when you enter this room or you download an app. All of a sudden, they control your life and give you 10 seconds. Because while you're driving, that's not a problem. When you get out and stand there and stare for a long time as Mullet Madjack, so it's not like some condition he has that he only lives for a certain amount of time. Something happens when you like agree to enter into this thing. Where
Yeah.
boom, they've got some kind of control over you where you're gonna die after 10 seconds, and then it continues to refill quickly as you go. The whole idea is like it might sound like it's super stressful, but it's really fun. And they give
It's
especially
really
the
not as stressful as
it's
10
not. And
seconds
the
seems
opening
crazy,
is very
and it's just
easy.
not.
They make it so easy. That first little area, they're like, we're not gonna make this hard on you at all. You just rush forward and hit like 2 buttons basically. It does get harder as you go, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward at the beginning for sure. So I only played it for a little while. I got past that first boss and then got my first permanent upgrade, which is again reminds me of your Dead Cells and your Hades, where it's like, I think the one I picked was level 2 weapons now are in the circulation of random upgrades you can get, and we're into weapons that can drop. It's
And
that
these
I
are
mean
like
it's a roguelike.
upgrades.
Yeah.
So they stick around beyond like your run or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm assuming there's a story there. It's just not anything you're taking seriously.
Kinda. I mean, like this guy, you're trying to save a princess, and she's always
an
on another
influencer.
floor. You know,
And stop it.
She's a princess influencer for real.
It's
See,
not. There's no.
I'm not
story.
saving her then. I'm not saving her.
It's like 99.9% vibes, 0.1% story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not really about that.
But it's
but
like
it's still
anime
very
girl and anime character on the phone and stuff. So there's a weird mix of like
yeah.
Hotline Miami, like you said.
Yeah.
This kind of weird cyberpunk 80s vibe mixed with anime style. It's very cleverly done. Yeah. It's a good design. Yeah, I think it's crazy. I think it's absolutely wild and I love it.
Yeah, go play this game. It's so cheap.
Colors everywhere. It's nuts, man.
Runs on the Steam Deck, even though it says unsupported. It runs flawlessly. So
Oh, nice. I didn't try it there. Nice. Yeah, Mullet Madjack. What a wild game, and what a great title too. Mullet Madjack. I think it's got like a 89 or 90 on OpenCritic last time I
really
checked.
that high? Oh my god.
So that's the first
see
time
you
it
in the
caught
Game of
my
the Year's
attention.
talks for looks for sure. You know, like
I
I don't know if
mean-
it's making any tens, but like it is
It's at
looker to me.
87 right now. 87.
That's
so it dropped
still
a couple
great,
points.
yeah.
It's not, to me, it's in that same boat as something like Neon White. It's going to click with some people and it just
Yeah,
feels
that's
great and
true.
it's fast and it's first person perspective. And some people are going to be like, yeah, not my thing. And that's okay. But
Yeah.
it's got that element of like, go quick, go fast, beat your score, upgrade quickly. So it has a little bit of that vibe to it. Just not, it doesn't really have the, like Neon White actually did have an interesting story with characters to follow.
That's true. Yeah. There was something pulling you along there, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, go check Mullet Madjack out. If any of that, even if you just like a really fast-paced first-person shooter, just give it a try. You might be like, roguelikes are the worst. I hate them. Fair enough. I get it.
Yeah.
But like, give it a try. Because by the time
I don't
you finish
always
your
love them
first
either.
run,
They're not my
you might-
favorite
you might love
genre,
it.
but like the good ones always click because they're good. You know what I mean? Like if you hate Hades, you're just trying to hate Hades. You know, like this, like the good ones are always good. You know, and
That's right.
I think
Totally
this is a
agree.
good one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. There's a couple other games out that are worth at least mentioning. One is called Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. I saw that one. I haven't purchased it, but it does look cool. It's got a cool visual vibe
This
to
is
it.
the same developer who did Sayonara Wild Hearts,
Oh,
I'm pretty
wow.
sure.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Is
know
it?
that, but it doesn't
I
surprise me when you look at the
love
visuals.
that game.
The,
Ugh.
the visuals look kind of like that, so I get it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that one looks really interesting.
Oh,
I really had hoped on to play this game Nevermore, and I haven't played it yet. It's an early access game. I have the demo for it downloaded. I just didn't play it yet. But it is listed as being very similar to Hades, just in terms of
Oh.
it's a roguelike, of course. It's got this isometric view. It's a bit of a fantasy RPG roguelike. So it's got lots of magic and that kind of stuff in it. Looks pretty cool. I don't think it's actually isometric. I think it is more of a 3D um, kind of action platformer gameplay. But anyway,
Mhm.
looks really cool. I want to try it. It's got really good reviews on Steam at least. So I want to try this one out, but I have not played it yet. But I do like the vibe. Braid Anniversary Edition is out. Guys, that game's awesome. If you like puzzle platformers, that game's awesome. If you
I
don't,
feel like that kind of snuck up. Like that had been announced. It's like, oh, because everybody's
feel like
like
it
that
snuck up,
game
too.
is one of the classics, right? Of that style of
that's
game.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
This was back during the arcade of summer days, the
Right.
Xbox 360. We talked about this recently.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And this was one of
Maybe another
those.
top 10 list.
Dude, I would
That's
absolutely
Arcade of
do an
Summer.
arcade of
Yeah,
summer.
same
top
here.
10.
That what a
You
trip
kidding
that
me?
would be to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But for $20, you can get this game. It's pretty brilliant visually. Like if you just look at the listing, go check out the video. Like the visuals are really weird and dreamlike, painting like. They're very strange, and the animation is really cool. And this anniversary edition has added some cool depth to it that it did have before. This is just more detailed.
Yeah.
I never did finish this game. It gets really challenging. There's a time element to it where you get this like little hourglass and then you do something and then you rewind time and then do it again. And you can kind of use your shadow or shade, I think, if I remember correctly, or the things that you've moved, you can now, when you do your next run, those things will move again because of the way you affected time. There's a recent game, that Listfunga Time Shift Warrior game, where you run through and kill, and then you reset time, and then go kill the other ones, and then reset time, and then go kill the middle lane. And the whole idea is you got to kill them all at once. And so you
Okay.
and your shadows that you've created with these different timelines are working together. That's more of an
Interesting.
action focus on this, which, by the way, I love that game. That game is really cool. And this one's just more puzzle. I don't know if there's any I don't remember there being any combat. I think you can take enemies out with the environment, I think. But yeah, it's more about getting from point A to point B. Think more like Mario versus Donkey Kong, but more serious, like less toy like. I don't know. So yeah, Braid is awesome. I highly recommend it. All right, there's a game called Ruin Dog. Hang on,
What a weird name.
I know. So it kind of, when I first saw the art for it, it was being recommended to me. The art style reminded me, like just the thumbnail or the artwork that they used, almost like a Fallout or Borderlands with kind of that futuristic, the humor vibe. And then you saw the actual gameplay, not so much Fallout, maybe a little bit of Borderlands. It's a third-person game that is also an action roguelike, but the gameplay does look fun. I just don't know how good it is. I think there's a you know how games now, instead of a demo, they'll put out like a chapter 1 or a prelude or whatever. They'll put out like, I think that had that for a little while.
A prologue or whatever.
Prologue, yeah. So I think you could try it out. But anyway, it's from I believe it's I think it's a Chinese studio, Rama Studio. I'm trying to remember what else they made. Let's see.
And the Chinese, they're just edging their way in here. They're taking over.
The only other games that are on their list is another one coming out soon called Star Blues. Which I don't know anything about.
I haven't heard that one.
You've said rogue, by the way, just pointing out a lot of the things you've listed so far, roguelike. So roguelites are not taking over. Souls is gone. Roguelites are
that's the thing. That's where you're wrong. There's a trifecta going on right now. It's either a Souls-like, a Metroidvania, or the other one we were just talking about.
Roguelite.
So,
or
roguelite. Yeah. Those are the three. If you're not making a game like that, you're not getting funded. Sorry, everybody.
That's right. Well, hey, listen, since that's our theme, might as well tell you about another one. There's one called The Land Beneath Us, which I actually did play the demo for this, and it'll be on their channel this coming week. You can check out the gameplay, the opening gameplay for that. It is also a roguelike. I'm sorry, you upgrade as you go. But it's an interesting take on it where you actually move on a grid. Did I tell you guys about this one already? I feel like I had
I don't know about this one. I know you mentioned Ruin Dog. I don't know if it was this one.
So The Land Beneath Us, you're on a grid and you move up, down, left, or right, obviously, but no one else around you moves till you move. So if you ever played like that John Wick Hex game where everything kind of freezes until you move, it's that concept of like puzzle, but action and strategy all kind of mixed together. And and this one can move fast. If you hit like up, 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 everything's going to move quick. But if you hit up and then wait and just kind of watch and plan out your next move, everything's going to freeze and wait with you. So it's on a grid. And then over time, you unlock weapons and you assign them either to, you assign them to a direction, not to a button, which I think is pretty cool. So like, let's say you get a sword and this sword does a certain amount of damage and knocks the enemy back one. You go assign that to up. You'll only attack with that if you're below an enemy and hit up towards them. That's when the sword will attack. It won't attack the other directions. Maybe the other direction you have a bow and arrow that hits from a distance, or a spear that can stab through 2 enemies at once, or something. Like there's all kinds of different. There's a dagger where it switches places with them and it kind of moves you behind them for the next attack. So there's all kinds of different weapon types that you can equip and upgrade, and it's just a pretty clever little system of using strategy and positioning on the map to take it. So it's roguelike, yes, in a way, but also I don't know. It's a weird combination of action and Into the Breach a little bit. Although Into the Breach was, of course, much more like Advance Wars compared to something like this. So I don't know. It's really unique. I think The Land Beneath Us is definitely some cool ideas they're trying out in that game.
It sounds like a lot of complexity to it.
Yeah, it's got a good amount of complexity. It's also got a really cool art style. Like you have like anime is probably the wrong way to describe
it's like pixelated, like future kind of.
Yeah, so some of the art has this kind of anime Gundam almost look to it, and then the gameplay itself is very pixelated. But it's like really pretty pixelated. So you're on these like little mini maps. Think like Into the Breach, where it's a very limited space to work with for each little level, and then you get to the end point, warp to a new one, and keep going. So yeah, it's got the demo is available on Steam if you want to try that one out. Yeah, I've never played the Homeworld games, but Homeworld 3 is out. I suppose that's probably one of the more major releases this week. That
I
don't know, doesn't
there's probably a sect of people who are stoked about this. Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
Spice.
Sure, why not? Let's see what else is out. What is Dread Delusion? I think
that's that Morrowind game that I like shared in chat the other day.
Yeah.
I did play this for about an hour, and
it's like old school.
Very old school. Yeah. I will say that playing this game blown up on your TV, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Maybe just play it on Steam Deck if you're gonna get it. But it is pretty cool. It is a very old school like game. It's like, hey, what if we made Morrowind on PlayStation 1?
I kind of like the vibe. It reminds me a little bit of like that Hexen game on N64, like the graphics a little bit. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
It's like that.
It's a cool game. The opening like cutscene is more stylized and has like a cooler art.
There's airships.
There's airships. It's about like shattered islands and getting to different islands and stuff like that. The
sky is very hot pinkish red.
It is, and like that's what like looks bad. Like whenever you blow it up on a TV, you're like, oh, everything just kind of looks like it all bleeds together too much.
Steam
but like
says that I would like it because I spent 46 hours in Cyberpunk 2077 and 55 hours in Starfield. So it's like
I don't understand that at all, but that's okay.
That's
all right.
The math checks out.
Those are the two.
I'm enjoying it. I don't know if I'll play this like a bunch, but like I'll love to have this on my deck just to like let me like do a quick like little stint of this real quick. That
looks really cool though.
It seems like a cool like.
I'm glad games like this are getting made where it's like people who grew up playing this kind of stuff and
love it. You could tell this is like a giant love letter.
I love it. Man. Yeah. It's the same thing with that Halls of Torment game I highlighted where it's Vampire Survivors, but it looks like Diablo 1, and it just kind of has this
The game is like $3 all the time on Steam. I need to just pick that up.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, just kind of if you grew up with those kind of games, whether it's pixel style or this weird old PC art style, there's always going to be new content people are making because they just love that too. And I'm all about all the bad news we're hearing in the gaming industry. I'm glad we still get weeks like this where it's just like, dude, there were like 12 little games that are worth looking at.
Yeah. That's where it's healthy. That's where things seem healthy. You know what I mean? Like they're not interested in being purchased. No one's interested in buying them, and they're just flourishing. So,
but that's the annoying thing is you have those. Obviously to each their own. I mean, play what you want to play. You're not doing anything wrong, but there are people out there that are incredibly stubborn about trying anything unique and small.
Right.
Which that doesn't look
there's like
Unreal Engine
5, if your time is so limited and you're like, if I'm going to sit down and play a game, it's going to be a big, beautiful 7.1 surround, 4K experience. Sure, I get it. But also, maybe be open to like these experiences because there's like so many gems out. And I feel like all the time you could throw a stone on a week and maybe there's like a cool little guy that came out like Balatro. Who knew that game was gonna? Who knew that game was gonna like suck up like the whole 2024's time? Like so many people were playing that game.
That game's so fun. That game is super fun. There's another game that is not a roguelike, you guys, but it is a Souls-like. And it's called
damn it.
It's
called
Prove me wrong. Not gonna lie, this episode will reconvene. Did everything we talk about today, did it have one of these three qualities?
Just the name of the episode is the trifecta thing. It just lists all three of the
Souls-like, roguelike, and whatever. It's fine. Metroidvania. Morbid, the Souls of Ire. So it's Morbid Time.
Morbid Time.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen.
So good. Yeah.
So it's called Morbid Lords of Ire. I guess this is a sequel to a game. And so it's definitely a Souls-like. Apparently, according to some of the reviews I'm reading, it's getting like mostly positive. So it's in that 70% range on Steam for user reviews.
Swimming
in 7s. Yep. So it's got the Souls-like combat. Looks like it does have it's a high difficulty, but it's got some kind of sanity feature. I don't know if it's like Eternal Darkness or what, but some kind of sanity feature where fear plays a big role in what you're doing. I'm assuming to both power you up and to weaken you. I would assume. I don't know exactly what that system is, but yeah, I think it's a sequel to a game this company has made before. So anyway, it does have a cool look to it. It definitely looks like a small, like you don't have a huge budget when you made this game. Like the visuals look good, but maybe a couple gens old. Some of the animations don't look super modern, but otherwise it looks pretty cool. So yeah, it's Morbid Time. Go give that one a look.
Thank you. Derek, that segment's for you. You're welcome.
Swimming in 7 Souls-like, that is very much a Derek segment. That is very true. Kyle mentioned that if we're not talking about a Souls-like or a roguelike, it's a Metroidvania. That's true. There's one, it's a Metroidvania called Geno Panic that it looks really cool. It's this little pixelated game.
Is it Geno? From
Geno.
Super Mario RPG?
It's spelled like Geno, but it is not Geno. Yeah. Sorry to say.
Goddamn.
But it's got a really cool kind of modern 16-bit side scroller look to it, precision platforming, some Metroidvania elements to it. I think it looks pretty cool. I think the user reviews on it are pretty solid too. So
like it.
I have not played it, but it kind of reminds me of how I remember NES games looking. And of course they didn't look this good. Of course they didn't. I know that. Right. But it's how I remember old school NES platform.
It's like a little astronaut, dude, just blasting stuff and jetpacking.
Trying to stay away from all the lasers coming at him. Or her, or they. I don't know, guys. I don't know who's who in these games. But anyway, Geno Panic looks pretty cool. So give that one a glance if you like kind of throwback platformer games. And last but not least, I thought this one looked fun. I still might get it because it depends. Like if I'm in the right mood, then I don't know, kind of a pirate management game sounds super fun.
Good. Yeah.
Have you heard of this game, Seablip?
Oh, but I just looked it up because I figured that was the last thing on the list. I love this.
Yeah, doesn't it look awesome?
It does.
So the idea is that you are you're a sea captain or a pirate captain more specifically, and you are raising up your crew and you're upgrading your ship and you're searching for treasure. You can go fishing. It's this open world exploration on a very kind of 16-bit looking map. Side-scrolling approach. It looks like in both the sea battles and when you're exploring little towns. You can go after bounties. I don't know, man. It looks really fun.
Yeah, God,
and I love the name. I love the Sea Blip name. It's pretty great.
This looks awesome. Like
Doesn't
I
it?
am putting it on my wish list right now.
It looks
didn't
really
know anything
fun.
about this game.
Yeah, it looks really fun. And so again, Steam is telling me, and they're hit or miss with their recommendations based on, similar to things you like. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes it's like the last one I mentioned. I'm like, really? I would like this because of Cyberpunk and Starfield? Okay. But this one is saying, I would love Sea Blip because of my time with Valheim and Dave the Diver.
Mine says Enshrouded and Dave the Diver. So
there you go.
Yeah,
so I think there's an element of crafting and upgrading, and of course there's this side-scrolling pixelated element to it as well with the Dave the Diver stuff. I don't know, man. It's an early access, so I don't know. Is it a full complete experience? Is it like I don't know.
a demo too, in case anybody's curious.
Only 63 reviews, but it is very positive.
There you go.
Oh, actually, no, there is no demo. I lied.
Yeah, there's no demo, but it is like $13-$14 to get it.
Yeah, it said I was searching.
It just came out in early access, so
God, I love that art style so much. I just love pixel. Oh, man,
it looks great.
Love it.
Yeah, even like the nighttime sky in some of the little video clips of the different layers of clouds they've put in. It reminds me of even like a Final Fantasy VI or something during like a cutscene when the clouds would cross over each other, and it's just two little layers of JPEGs that they've had go over each other. But still added this cool
there's a word for it with the stuff in the background all layered. Was it parallax something?
Parallax, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Parallax, okay,
yeah.
Nice word.
Yeah, like you could do it in websites too when you scroll and certain elements move faster than others to give it all like this disconnected, layered look. But anyway, yeah, man, Sea Blip. what a great name too for a game. Sea Blip. Will this be this year's Dave the Diver? We shall see. That game, of course, was an unmitigated hit and not technically an indie. I've been told many times. Whatever.
It's an indie, and everyone can come at me. Find me on Twitter.
Come at me.
I don't have one.
All right, were there any other new games this week? I know there's a lot, but was there anything like big, significant? I know next week we've got a couple, but was there anything else that you guys know of?
No clue. I didn't even know most of those came out.
Yeah, I thought I was on a roll this week, and you just named like 6 games I didn't even hear of. So, 2 of which that went on my
Sea Blip is the only one that we listed, I believe, that is not either a Souls-like, a Metroidvania, or a roguelike. Sea Blip.
Well, once we play it, I bet we're gonna be like, oh,
crap.
Okay,
here's
the.
That means it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail, and now that sucks. So
yeah, that means it'll never exit early access. So.
It's funny. They have a sale going on right now. I love when they feature like genres for sales. I actually really do like that. They'll be like city building sale. Yeah. Right now, it's the Endless Replayability Fest. And they have all these demos and stuff for those kind of games that you can just, of course, play forever. And so there's a couple that I've really been intrigued by. Like, I've always wanted to play Dwarf Fortress. I keep hearing about it. I've heard about it for years. I've never tried it. It's down to $30, which it's usually like 40 or 45 or something. So that one I might try. I don't know. I'm really intrigued by Light No Fire, which is the follow-up, of course, to No Man's Sky. Can't wait for that one.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that completely.
Yeah, but that's featured on here as a coming soon game, which is very interesting that they're featuring it. And I keep wondering, is this one closer than we realize? I think
it might come out this year. I think we might hear something about it at Summer Game Fest, and it might enter early access like in October, November. I don't know, I feel pretty good about that.
Sean needs to take his time, okay? Let's not have a repeat.
Can I just say it right now? It will be a repeat. You're gonna get the game. You're going to get the game's bones when it comes out, and then in 4 years it will be a fantastic game.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Just think of it like an early access release, even if they don't end up
Minecraft
That's all he needs
to say.
We
all love that game, and we don't think about Minecraft as this like, well, it started off really dumb.
Now, if they launch it officially in early access, people will give them a lot less crap, I think.
I think so too.
So if they call it like if they do it like on Xbox preview and Steam early access or whatever, then I think
cut
people
out those dumb Sony people. Yeah, absolutely.
Sony.
Leave them, but they're the only people that don't allow you to play like early access games. Or do they? Is there an early access program on Sony that I'm?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't turned my PS5 on in a good
I don't think so, actually. I don't think they do.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that might not be for lack of them wanting to. It's just I don't think they have a program for it. Like Xbox created the program for it, like Steam has with early access. So
I don't know,
And-
Tim, because I know you like the Age of Empires and stuff like that, like I do. Fabledom is on there
Dude,
because I have.
I
that,
just bought it, Dan. I can't wait
did
to
you?
play it. Yeah, it's like it's super cheap. But you know what it reminds me of? I'm glad you brought that one up because I forgot to write it in. It looks like Kingdom for Keflings. Do you guys remember that little city builder?
I remember the
It sounds
name
familiar.
for sure. Yeah.
It looks a lot like that. A very cozy city builder.
Yeah. I'm like, I keep hovering over because I'm like, it's like not even $14. It's like, it's like that's cheap. Do I want to buy it? I don't know. Like, am I
the
gonna play
user
it?
reviews on it are, I think, really high. It's like up in the mid to high 80s.
It says very positive.
It says wholesome fairy tale world. It's a laid back city builder. And the graphic style even reminds me of Kingdom for Keflings, where you just build and upgrade and build some
Like
more.
I like the way it
upgrade
looks
some
too.
more.
Visually, it looks
Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah,
for what
I'm
it
super
is.
on board with this one. It looks very, very wholesome. I'm down with a game like this. So
Yeah.
it's funny that you mentioned that one because I actually purchased it today. And I
Yeah.
have it installed. I just didn't take time to play it quite yet.
I clearly liked the way it looked at some point because I mean I don't have much wish listed because I obviously just don't poke into Steam super often because I haven't had this PC for like super long, but yeah, that popped up and it's like 35% off. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a bad. Yeah, Fabledom. Good call out. I had forgotten that was one that. That's because of the endless replayability fest. That's why it kind of popped up on my recommended for you.
Yeah.
It was like, you like weird little city builders, and I said yes, I do. And
I love them. I love them.
That's right. All right. Well, let's take a step back into the past a little bit.
Ooh.
Let's dive into a new segment we're calling Not So Current Top 10.
Yeah, I love it. There's a name for it.
That's right. So we're going to take a step backwards, and we were chatting this week in our Facebook chat group about PS2, and Kyle got us reminiscing a little bit on this, on some PS2 games, and was like, why don't we just do our top 10? Because we were just talking about all the games that we love. Like, sweet. That could take a while. And then all three of us, I think, had our list within the next 15 minutes after that because we all stopped work and family stuff, whatever we were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rank our PS2 games.
I was resuscitating a human heart. And then mid resuscitation, I paused and made my list.
They're like, Dan, keep doing compressions. You're like, PS2 list.
No thanks.
PS2, yeah, PS2.
So we're not gonna try to like argue our way into a top 10. I am very curious though to hear each person's top 10s. We have two different ways we could do this. We could each take a chunk of time and go through our 10 and talk about them, or we could do like what's everyone's number 10, everyone's number 9, and so on and so forth. For some reason, I'm kind of leaning towards that second one. But if that's stretching it out too much, if that's too like, you guys tell me, what would you prefer? Would you rather do like a little round robin and build our way up?
I like the round robin just so everyone gets someone's not being heard for too long.
I'm also worse at making lists than you guys. So like I have a list, but like as I was like making it, I'm like these could all like my top 3. I'm like pretty solid, but then like 4 through 10, I'm like these could like bounce around. Like you know.
Tell you what,
I feel
we'll do
like
then.
that's like the make of a good list, though.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna, just for the sake of us being staying within a time limit here, I'm gonna set, since there are 3 of us, I'm gonna set a total of a 3-minute time limit. And we're going to throw out any honorable mentions that didn't make our list.
Oh, man. Okay.
Like, can we do it in 3? Maybe I'll make it 4 minutes. I heard your response. I'm going to get 4 minutes.
Can I have 3 minutes for myself?
Just for yourself. So tell you what, because there's going to be so many that we want to feature and talk about, you're just going to have to say, like, we're going to take turns just saying the name of a game. We'll go Dan, Kyle, Tim. Dan, Kyle, Tim. So like say the name of a game that didn't make your list, but you're like, this was a notable
I might
one.
even pair games together that are like
you can do that.
Same. Yeah. Okay.
So like, like anything like didn't make the cut. Maybe you can even say this was almost on my list. This is like top 15.
Yeah.
You can say that if you want to. All right. So I'm gonna start the timer. Well, that's 30 minutes. That's way too long. We don't need 30 minutes for this. Okay.
Or do we?
I'll do 5 minutes. Let's make it easy. Here you go, Dan. What's something that didn't make your list? Go ahead.
Specifically the second and third one I like more, but the Jack and Daxter series.
Oh, good, nice.
Good.
And I don't know if this is a hot take. I like those more than Ratchet and Clank. I'm sorry, I just do.
I probably would too. I don't know if I've ever played a Jack and Daxter game. The only Ratchet and Clank game I played was the PS5 one. But I actually liked the look of Jack and Daxter more.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's cooler. Kyle, what about you?
just outside of my list, I hate that it's not on my top 10. It's Champions of Norath and Champions Return to Arms, its sequel. It's like, anyone want to ask, like, hey, what's the Kyle's favorite type of game? It's this. It's a dungeon crawler, level upper, loot every 5 seconds type of game. And yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite versions of that. So
yeah, just outside my list is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which if you want to see where Assassin's Creed started, that's where it started, is with Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. So anyway, I love it.
That's a hard honorable mention for me too.
It was real close. What about you, Dan?
Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3.
You're the man.
Okay.
Also two. Also all of
them.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It's like the most I've ever spent in a fighting game.
Also great. Yeah.
Outside of Mortal Kombat, because I love Mortal Kombat, but like those Budokai games were like delicious. They were so good.
All right, Kyle, what about you?
Both Matrix games, Path of Neo and Enter the Matrix.
Oh man,
so
I remember
good,
Enter the Matrix. I remember that one.
Couple of games that I need to be like re-released in some way.
All right, I'll throw on there. Mercenaries was pretty close to making my top 10. The first one, the second one was not good, but the first one was really, really fun. Open world mayhem. I loved that game.
Those are good games.
Dan, what about you?
Wild Arms 3, which was the first Wild Arms I ever played.
Yep, that was on my not quite. That was on my honorable mentions list too. So yeah,
great choice. Yeah,
I like that.
All right, Kyle, what else?
The Lord of the Rings Return of the King game. So good. Yeah, so many co-op hours on that one.
Really good time. I'll throw an RPG on there. Shadow Hearts Covenant. Super dark.
Shadow Hearts, so good. Yes.
Super dark, really
that
fun.
Series
cool combat system.
Did not dive into as much as I'm gonna stream all of them.
I was just gonna say stream it, and I will be there, my friend. I love the Shadow Hearts games. I played 2 of them. I need to play both. All right, Dan, what about you?
Speaking of RPGs, Breath of Fire 5, but it's not called 5. It's Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
Okay. Using it all. Yep.
Which is the only Breath of Fire I've actually beaten.
Do they know that Quarter is like in 4ths, and that's the 5th game? They're just making it hard on themselves. That's fine. That's
fine. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Kyle, what about you?
2 that fell just off my list again. These would be like number 10 if there were such thing as like 3 slots at number 10. Need for Speed Underground. I probably put more hours into this game than any other racing game ever. What a fantastic racing game. I measure all racing games to like Need for Speed Underground and Zone of the Enders 2. Kojima getting to do a mech anime video game. Zone of the Enders 1 and 2 are fantastic video games. I think you can pick up those HD like collections like on Xbox or maybe in PlayStation. I don't really know. Absolutely fantastic games.
I'm gonna throw out a couple of sports and multiplayer ones just real quick. I played a lot of Madden, especially 2005, or was it 2004? It was one of those 2. I always blank on which one it was. It was a ton of fun. NCAA football as well. I played them together. 2004, 2005 were great years for those. And then I'll just throw on there Rock Band, which I spent countless hours playing that, and Guitar Hero. But I think between the 2, I slightly preferred Rock Band when it was all said and done.
I prefer Rock Band as well.
All right, Dan, any others?
Well, Kyle mentioned Zone of the Enders. I've never actually played the second one.
It's so good.
I remember beating the first one, so I love the first one. I bought
the and this was before I could do it, but most people bought Zone of the Enders 2 so they could get a Metal Gear Solid 2 demo.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 2 is the first game I picked up on like PlayStation 2, so I missed that window of like buying a game to play another game. Yeah,
because that was Konami. That's right. Dang.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Are we just rattling? Because I technically
go ahead and rattle a few more off.
Rattle a few off at a time because I'm going to
Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
The best open world Spider-Man game until the PS4, PS5.
Ultimate. I'll also say Ultimate Spider-Man. Very good. Kind of the same flavor of that, but cell shaded.
Yeah. Xenosaga trilogy, because you can't really just be like one of these. It's the whole thing, Yeah. It's the whole thing. That trilogy is bananas. From what I can remember.
Bananas space opera.
I only did 1 and 2. I finished 1, played a lot of 2, never played 3.
I think I'm in the same boat as you, Tim. Yeah.
Dude, there's like some Kojima level and like lengthwise cutscenes.
Oh, they're only game series to rival like Kojima, like in terms of like cutscene length.
I mean, go get yourself a sandwich during those cutscenes.
Yeah, but pause it. Don't skip the cutscene.
Yeah, pause it.
But eat the sandwich while you're watching it, like a movie.
I feel like I never hear anybody talk about this game. There's 2 of them. Beautiful Joe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Beautiful Joe is so fun. That game is like really
outstanding.
quirky.
Capcom remake those games or put
Yeah.
out a new one. Like that's
Yeah.
such a good IP.
That was so good. Suikoden 3, because that was the first Suikoden game I played and actually played all the way through and beat.
Same.
And then I don't know, I kind of bounce back and forth between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, but like 1 is just so special story-wise. It's just like it was this thing that was like Disney
that didn't make your top 10. I'm fascinated.
It's definitely on my top 10, so we can talk about it later.
It was very close. I mean, it literally was at 11, so it was very close.
That makes sense.
But it's like that series. It's not a love hate thing necessarily, but it's just like it's gone on for so long that I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, what are you even doing? Like,
I get it.
What is even happening? But I mean, it's just who would have thought Disney and Square coming together making a thing, and it works.
Had no business working, but it did.
Yeah, and it works. So.
I want to rattle off a few.
Yeah, I hope Dan reps this one, but Onimusha just barely didn't make my list.
First one?
Yeah, yes, but really all of them, all three of them, I think are fantastic.
Because I have Onimusha
and
3
some
on
of my favorites.
I have 3 on my honorable mentions. Demon Siege. I just love that one.
I think we've talked about this before, but one of the greatest opening FMV sequences in the history of video games to this day.
I'll go watch it right now.
Donnie Yen choreographed.
Edit that whole thing in right now.
Right now, we'll take a pause. Donnie Yen choreographed that entire fight sequence, by the way.
Oh, did you really?
What?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
A little bit of game trivia there for you. I'll rattle off a few others. Rogue Galaxy, one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. Star Rush Until the End of Time. I hope Dan reps that one on his list.
I forgot about that.
Oh, well, there, yeah. I'm mentioning it for both of us.
That's why we're doing honorable mentions.
Yeah,
yep.
I forgot about that.
A couple others. Fatal Frame 2, one of my favorite horror games of all time. The Warriors by Rockstar, one of my favorite beat-em-ups of all time. SXS Tricky, the greatest snowboarding game of all time. Maybe besides 1080 snowboarding, I think I like that.
I think
maybe
that
better,
one did a good job of replacing what 1080 was doing.
I totally agree.
It took a while for that to get replaced. Yeah.
Racing game wise, Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition and Gran Turismo 4, two of the greatest racing games of all time to this day. More games I like measure racing games too were from this area.
Yeah,
it's so good. Rockstar, what the heck? Make a new Midnight Club. What are you doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that was the last game that come out, and it was wildly successful. It makes no sense to me that they're not making one.
That was their last one on that IP. Crazy.
I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And just because I have a different Rockstar game on my list, Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto 3, all fantastic games. I just have a different love from that era. Which
I totally get it. A few others that didn't quite make my list that I don't really have to say much about because they speak for themselves. Psychonauts, the Incredible Hulk is on my list. We talked about that one plenty of times. Star Wars
Prototype as well. I think that was the same developer who did
Prototype. I think they did do the Incredible Hulk.
That was fun too.
Which makes sense now that you're saying it.
Very similar. Yeah.
Star Wars Battlefront 2 specifically. I did like 1 as well, but 2 became I spent a lot of time playing that one. And I already mentioned Onimusha 3. So, all right, there's so many honorable mentions, and if we think of one as we talk, feel free to jot it down at the end before we wrap up. You can say, I gotta mention one more that's not on my feel free to do that at the end. But let's get into our actual top 10s and start with number 10. Dan, what made your list? What is in the number 10 spot?
So starting at 10, and I'll say real quick, PS1 was the generation where I was like, oh, I love RPGs. RPGs are amazing. It's my favorite genre still to this day. But like realizing as I'm making this list, like PS2 is like kind of like where I like just kind of went in all these different directions.
Yes.
And a lot of like actiony type games, third person like action type games, a lot of that. So I kind of like
RPGs took a bit of a backseat for me personally in my PS2 gaming, just for whatever reason. But
which is because PS2 is considered like one of the best JRPG eras of its time. Yeah, but I have a similar story as you guys though. Like that was the era of branching out into a lot of different genres.
But at 10, I have Guitar Hero 3.
Nice.
I remember when I was with my ex-girlfriend, we went over her friend's house and her little brother was playing Guitar Hero. It was the first time I'd seen Guitar Hero. I was like, dude, what even is this? This little plastic guitar. I was like, holy crap, I can actually because I had always dreamed of like I would love to play guitar. I don't think I can do. I just don't think I'm. And then like here was this game that's like you could play guitar. I mean, you're pressing buttons. It's not exactly the same at all, but and it just blew my mind. And when we got to 3 and they have that Through the Fire and Flame song on there.
Oh yeah, Dragon
that
Force.
Just like melted my brain. Yeah, Dragon Force. So I love that one. There's quite a few other songs on there that I'm not remembering off the top of my head that I really dig. That I
still remember Guitar Hero 1 when you finished the campaign and they start shouting Freebird and then you play Freebird. It was one of the most, even though that game isn't on my list, that's one of my most memorable gaming moments ever, is when Freebird, almost as a joke, was shouted out after your final concert, you thought, and then you play it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, man. Yeah.
I liked all the story and campaigns in those too. Like not the story, but I liked the idea of like now you're in a bigger venue. You know,
exactly. Like there was an
bigger
upgrade.
songs and
What was in the second? Was the second one Devil Went Down to Georgia? Is that where they end that one? I think with
it sounds all blurs together too much for me.
Yeah,
I really remember the first one, and then after that, it just became like, what songs do they have, and less about the campaign, as it were.
3 is my favorite though. That has the my opinion, the best set.
All right, Kyle, what's your number 10 PS2?
My number 10, I spent multiple nights playing on PS2 via LAN parties. Night after night after night. SOCOM 2, man. This is like this is probably the shooter I probably put the most time into, and we'll be talking about the number 9 in a second, but these 2 games would be played interchangeably at my house. My mom, such a saint. My dad was working overseas at the time. My mom, such a saint, just wanted people around the house, let all these dumb kids come over and do LAN parties at the house every Friday and Saturday. Where, I mean, we occupied every room in the house. Everyone had like a TV.
As long as LAN doesn't mean drugs, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think she was just psyched about that. I mean, this would have been my 11th grade year, maybe 10th to 11th grade year. So like,
SOCOM.
Love this game. I know everyone probably played like the single player, but like I don't think I ever played a single second of the single player in either of SOCOM 1 or 2. But like that's what you have the headset on, you could like bark orders at your AI or whatever. But this is like the beginning of the PS2, network adapter, and like one of the very first games that were like, SOCOM 1 and 2, I guess, that were just like everybody on Earth was playing this game, if you had a PS2. So God, I miss
the closest thing they had to a Halo-like experience. That
it is, yeah. And I'd miss just being not only good but addicted to a shooting game like that. I just miss that so much.
Sure.
Yep, love it. My number 10 is Bully from Rockstar Games. That's my number 10.
Yeah, that is my number 7. So
all right, so we'll get to that too. I won't say too much about it. It was the first time I got to play an open world sort of RPG light action exploration whatever game from Rockstar where I didn't have to like turn it off when a family member came in because I was nervous about what they might see or hear.
Yeah.
Not that it was completely wholesome, but it certainly was more.
You steal like, panties in one mission, so yeah.
It's not completely wholesome, but it was definitely PG-13, which was great.
I agree with that. Yeah,
super fun. I really would love to see this game get a sequel, and
well, they were making one, right?
I think it was like 70% done or something like that.
Put me back in that kind of like boarding school setup, like Hogwarts minus the magic type setting, and I'm all in on that. That'd be a lot of fun to do that again. But
I will argue that it's the best Rockstar experience on the PlayStation 2. Like I love Vice City, I love San Andreas, but I think Bully is like the culmination of all those ideas.
So good. All right, Dan, what's your number 9? Let's get to the next one.
Number 9, that would be Persona 3.
First
Persona game I experienced.
Yeah.
Had not played an RPG up to that point, of course, which I mean, it was still pretty early on in my RPG career. With that vibe, that atmosphere. And just like how mature it was of like these kids pulling up this gun and then summoning a persona out of themselves by pulling the trigger. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty dark.
It's dark, yeah.
But yeah, it just Persona, the series as a whole, obviously we all know has a very unique vibe, and so it was the first one I'd played, so I was like, oh, this is really different. This is interesting. So
yep.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Good pick. Kyle, what's your number 9 game?
The other LAN game on my dubious LAN nights, Resident Evil Outbreak. I could only choose one game per franchise.
Dang.
So like Resident Evil 4 gets like I know it's gonna make a lot of people mad. I think Resident Evil Outbreak's a better video game experience than Resident Evil 4. Just in terms of like the
Never played
memories. I don't think
Outbreak.
I don't think it's a better game. I think that the memories I have.
Is it multiplayer only?
Yeah, I don't think I think you could play on your own with AI, but it was one of those things where it's like you couldn't beat anything though. It'd be like playing Payday 2 with like AI characters. It's maybe you could get by, but like
it's meant for multiplayer.
It is meant for multiplayer. And this is one of my favorite experiences ever, man. Like we would get with noobs and you knew exactly how bad they were going to be immediately. Like in the first room, you just knew. And in the very first like mission, there is a place where you can like board up like a doorway instantaneously, and you would always lock the new person down there, so whenever the zombies would come in, they couldn't like break through the boards quick enough, and they would just die. So they wouldn't slow you down, so you could get your good speedrun points. And it was all about accumulating points after good runs. And like it was just back in the day when like you just had like a giant number attached to your quote unquote account or profile, and you just were like, wow, that guy put a lot of time into this game. Look how big his points are, and so you were just always thinking about trying to like shave off time off your runs and stuff like that. There's like five or six scenarios, if I'm not mistaken. Resident Evil Outbreak 2 is absolutely fantastic as well. And it had all the levels from the first one in it as well. So that probably should actually be my pick. But I just have more memories tied to one. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, I wish they would make another game like this, but it's old tanky Resident Evil.
Yeah, I was going to say it plays more like the old ones. Yeah.
Co-op. So you had like you chose a character and it was very, very, very specific of what you could do and what you offered to the team and everything like that. There's just nothing else like it at the time. And again, this is early PlayStation 2, network type of stuff. So, oh man, so many hours playing this game.
So my pick for number 9 it represents a trilogy of games that came out on PS2, and I think they were on Xbox as well, but I played them on PS2, and that's Splinter Cell. I'll go with Chaos Theory as my favorite of those three. I loved the first one, and I thought Pandora's Tomorrow, however that's supposed to be pronounced, was also really good. But Chaos Theory to me was just, it improved the gameplay and stealth elements so much. Is this still ridiculous that they can't hear the little sound of your night vision coming on and like see your little glowing thing? Yeah, sure, that's a little ridiculous. That's fine. I'm totally down with it. It's so iconic. I don't care. But I love this game. I thought the story was fun. Gives me the same vibes as stuff like Hitman in terms of its conspiracy, government, clandestine type storylines, and love it. Love the Splinter Cell games, and Chaos Theory was my favorite of the PS2 ones.
Nice.
All right, Dan, let's move to number 8. What do you got?
More RPGs. Another first as well for me. Dragon Quest 8.
Okay.
Absolute classic.
I never played it.
Never play. Oh yeah, it's. I mean, the Dragon
I never
Quest
got into
series,
the Dragon Quest games in general. Just to be clear,
Yeah,
it's not like I didn't like them. I just never tried them.
They're very much the opposite of the Final Fantasy series, where they try to stay close to the series' roots and feeling classic. Classic is just pretty much the exact word to use with the series. Obviously, by the time you get to 11, there are things that would be different than going back to like all the way to the beginning of the series.
Also looks different too, right? Like they have a different vibe from top to bottom. The style.
So it was the first like going into the 3D realm. It was the first.
8 was the first 3D one,
and it's always been Akira Toriyama, so it's always had like an identity attached to like the way that it looks, like with its art style and stuff like that. But every game has been like a giant leap forward, I would say, in terms of its graphics.
And just really different from any other JRPGs that were out there. They just didn't
way
look
more
the same
jolly.
as,
hyper colored, jolly.
The music has very jolly vibes. The look of it is very kind of not like dark and violent, like but yeah, it just I remember getting that when I was just like, oh, this one also very different, because it just feels it's like it's challenging. That game does not hold your hand. Like you get messed up if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So
one of my favorite casinos in video games too.
Good casinos. Good
casinos.
Yeah.
Thanks, gambling. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gambling's cool, man. Play an RPG. Gambling's rad.
All right, Kyle, for number 8, do you have gambling PS2 version?
I do have gambling, Gambler's Gambit. That is a real game. No, I have I can't believe this is the order of this list, but that's okay. Devil May Cry 3. Man, it's probably my favorite of the 3 that are on here. People hate 2. 2's fine. It's not great. It's just fine. One's outstanding, but 3 is like awesome. And the fight with Virgil at the end of this game is like one of the greatest boss fights in the history of gaming. This game rocks. It's so rock and roll. Dante is so young and so cocky and so on his game, like, quippy wise.
Oh yeah.
And you just get some of the best moments in the series in this game. It still like holds up. Like you can get the remaster, re-release or whatever of 3 like on Switch and like PlayStation 4 and stuff like that. And like it is still like a fun game to play. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome, man. I love this game.
Yeah, strong mechanics will do that. DMC 6 coming, do you think, at some point near future?
I hope so. I don't know. Yeah, I forget. I've played
5's a
3
few years
times
old
and
back.
I forget how it ended. Did it end? Did it seem there was more to go?
It ended, but like they could keep going. They could certainly.
You could always do more.
Those games have ridiculous stories. Do whatever you want, and no one will care.
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
Yeah. Just don't make me play as Nero for a full game again. Like,
okay, I agree with that.
Listen,
I just
Nero's
like
got like the arm now.
I like Nero. I liked his moments in 5, but like, don't give me a whole game of him. Like, I need Dante. I need him.
All right, for me, number 8 is God of War, the first God of War game.
Awesome.
So we don't have to say a ton about this one either because they've reinvented themselves as a series, which I love even more. But on the PS2, it was just a brand new cinematic
such a
experience.
Game when it came out.
It was gorgeous. It was a new take on this mythology I'd never heard before. It's really violent, and I don't know, everything about it just, I mean, it caught me at the right time, a kind of college age, and just like, dude, this is one of the it was so cool. It was the epitome of cool. Like Nintendo would never do this, and I was a Nintendo boy, still am, but like it was the epitome of what I'll never.
It's Western Devil May Cry, like if someone from the West goes, we like Devil May Cry, let's make a cool God game.
Yeah,
loved God of War so much, and I liked the second and the third ones as well. Of course, did the third one come out on PS3?
I think that was PS3. Yeah.
All right, so I like the second one a lot
like
too, but I just picked the first one because the second one was like a lot more of the goodness from one. So I just picked one because it stuck with me more.
One's so memorable. It absolutely is.
Yeah. All right, Dan, what's your number 7? Moving into the next realm here.
Dark Cloud 2.
Nice. We talked about this. This is what started the conversation.
I think this is what kicked it all off.
Yeah, because you had mentioned the first Dark Cloud, and I do like the second one more.
I think I do too.
I can't remember if the town mechanics were exactly the same as one, because in one I know you could like literally like you have like all the little like buildings and you can plop them in wherever you want and kind of like actually construct a town.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I thought you just upgraded buildings. I didn't know you actually.
Yeah, I think in 2 maybe that's what it is. I don't remember, but I remember liking 2 more because I think it just like mechanically felt better to play. And I liked the look of it. It had that cell shaded look to it, which I really like. But yeah, that's a great series. I wish we would get a 3.
I think the first one was a launch game with PS2, wasn't it? Or near launch?
It was a launch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, if it wasn't a launch,
pretty early in the life cycle too. They both came out pretty.
Yeah.
Early.
But instead of getting a 3, I think we got Rogue Galaxy, which you had mentioned. But I would love a third.
Fair enough.
Rogue Galaxy is so good.
It is really good. Yes. Very true.
So awesome.
Very true. Very true.
Nice. All right. What about you, Kyle? We're up to number 7.
The before mentioned Bully, so we don't have to spend too much time on this, but this is like the best Rockstar formula of the PlayStation 2 era, and I just absolutely loved it. And the way that it piecemeals out its world, where it's like you're just on the school grounds, but then you kind of get a little freedom where you can ride your bike to town. And then, and then the carnival opens, and now you can go to the industrial side of town later. And like, I know this is a little cheating, but in later versions of like the scholarship version on Xbox 360, they added like Christmas lights and snowmen around town during the winter.
That's right, they did.
But yeah, I just love the seasons changing in this game. I love like how you do a big Halloween event. You go to class, you do these little mini games. It's just like, man, that game is so cozy, despite being about like beating up bullies and nerds and stuff like that. You're a bully amongst bullies, it's and I'll never forget the controversy around this game, with like Columbine and just like, oh, we don't want a GTA on school grounds, and it just wasn't that at all.
It wasn't that even a little bit.
It wasn't even kind of that, like the worst you had is a slingshot, and
the politicians don't want to use their brain. They don't want to actually.
Oh, and this was at the apex of like where politicians were like, we got to shut this shit down,
Yeah,
like,
they were looking for anything to blame except for whatever. We
Yeah.
don't have to get into politics right now. Okay.
No.
But I agree with you completely. All right, my number
was great.
7, I can keep super brief because I have a feeling it's going to show up on other people's lists. But for me, it lands here. I'm a little surprised it's not higher, but it's only because of my love for the ones that are above it. So it's not an insult to it. It's Final Fantasy X. I love this game. Dan, stay. Dan, stay. Dan, come back.
It's okay, Dan.
How dare you? How dare you?
But no, like as soon as I made the list, there were a couple of games. I think there were 3 games, maybe 4 that I wrote down immediately, and I just didn't know where to rank them yet.
Yeah.
This was one. This was probably the first or second one I wrote down. So like when I think
That's
of
a big
PS2, this is one of the games I think of. I picture immediately Final Fantasy X. I spent a ton of time in this game. I actually enjoy playing Blitzball. Everyone shut up. I had fun playing it.
I don't understand the hate.
Whatever.
It's
fine. It's a whatever. But I love this game, and I will talk about it more here in a little bit. But I had an absolute blast with it. I didn't spend as much time on PS2 playing PS2 RPGs, but this was one that I spent a ton of time with for sure.
Yeah.
I played a lot of PS1 RPGs, by the way, that I had missed because of the backwards compatibility and the memory card worked on the PS2. So I spent a lot of time on my PS2 playing PS1 games, weirdly enough, as I thought through a lot of this stuff. But
very true.
All right,
back when you could just play the generation before by popping the disc. Remember that? Oh, man, that feels good.
So simple. It was so simple.
All right, Dan, we're up to number 6. Round out the first half of our top 10. What you got?
So now we're shifting away from RPGs here, right? And also a little inconsistency here because number 6 for me is God of War 2.
Okay.
I just remember that one, even though yes, the first one is like, I guess arguably just more iconic because it was just like, holy shit, there's this rated mature like game that's just like brutal as hell. There's a sex mini game, like this is out of control. Like what's going on here? But
great story too, by the way. I think one good short change. It's a really good story. But go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. But 2, I remember just like it was just like
everything was bigger and better.
Everything.
It just was. Yeah. Everything was dialed up. Yeah.
And it was just really fun.
Gorgeous.
So I definitely remember that one. I think overall, like I enjoyed it more. I think there were segments of one, especially like when you're down in hell, that's kind of like frustrating a little bit, maybe.
Probably
with the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second one's just rad as hell. So
the only one that sticks out to me, by the way, just a quick aside, that I remember being frustrated with was Chains of Olympus, the PSP one. I think that one was, or one of the handheld ones.
Yeah,
I remember being like, well, this is a little annoying, not very well balanced, but yes, all of them do have difficult moments for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle, what's your number 6 game?
The correct ranking, Kingdom Hearts 2 on a top 10 list.
Okay.
Around the middle, where it needs to be. So I'm sure I get some wrong later that Dan will alley-oop me on.
Hey, Kyle, real quick, explain the story of that game to me.
Well, how much time do you have? I can. I actually
30
I
seconds.
Can explain
30
it. Yeah. Your best friends are forever, and always follow your heart. That's the story of Kingdom Hearts.
They're nobody, but also they're somebody.
Yeah, and everybody's 3 people. So that's the other part. We don't have time to get into it. Kingdom Hearts 2 is awesome. I don't know if y'all remember the big moment where you're fighting like 1,000 Heartless, and it's just one of those things where it's just like, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now.
Yeah.
And still something that games really don't do. Like, even like the Matrix kind of had that. The Path of Neo has that like Agent Smith fight where you're just like, oh, there's people everywhere. And maybe you get that out of Muso games too, but like these are like high dollar games that are introduce this mechanic of just like an endless wave of bad guys coming towards you, and you just feel so
Kingdom
powerful.
Hearts 2, I think, pushed the hardware, by the way. I think it pushed PS2.
Oh yeah. I remember being a little mad at its runtime because like Kingdom Hearts 1 was so beefy, and then like 2 is like maybe half like its length or whatever. But like but it was more quality, you know what I mean? Like it was just you get less, but it's just everything is just a little more pure, in 2. I just love that game so much. It's so great, and it's still a series that I look back on where I could take them forever. I could take these games forever. I hope Sora never gets his stupid friends back and he has to fight his way until the end of time.
Well, I mean, Kyle, have you played 3? Because, I mean, things are like, I mean, dude, who knows?
I don't know. You know what? How I just said I know what's going on in the series? I lied. I don't know
I have no idea.
Because it's like, is Sora still here?
3, there's so many more questions. I'm just like, all right, whatever.
I'm just here
to see Woody at this point,
It's part of what makes that series so funny to me is that it involves the simplest children's characters, and it's the most complex storyline I've ever heard in my life.
I don't know. I know a lot of grown adults who play the series, and none of them could explain it to you in a way that was
It's fine.
like comprehensive, you know.
I mean, the epitome of the Charlie, with the stuff on the board meme, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like the epitome of that. Like,
it is.
literally.
Yeah.
That's what
Agreed. All right,
Remember
my
when
number
Riku
6.
and Ansem were the same people? We had a good time. This was cool.
We're having a good time. My number 6 actually was virtually a tie with Final Fantasy X at number 7. I really couldn't decide between these two. I'd be happy to interchange them, to be honest. This is virtually a tie, and that's Suikoden 3. Like my two favorite RPGs on this system are both sitting in the same spot, basically. Loved them both. They're part of franchises that I adore, characters that I cared about, gameplay that was a blast. So yeah, I love Suikoden 3. It is actually a sequel to 2, although the direct connections are pretty limited. You have to really play a lot of 1 and 2 to kind of get the references, because it is absolutely a standalone story with new characters, but there's just connections, from 1 and 2. It's many years after. I don't remember how many. But yeah, Suikoden 3 is an amazing, amazing game. And boy, do I wish they would make that available somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
Same
I don't
here.
know. I think
we don't even have 1 and 2 remastered yet, so
1 and 2
That's
remastered.
true. Yeah, maybe when those like splash big, we get
maybe.
3.
I mean, 3. I don't even think it's on like PlayStation Plus Classics collection or any. I don't think you get it anywhere. You have to actually get a PS2 and get a copy.
Yep.
I wish I never sold it. I sold too many things trying to.
I know. Yeah, it hurts my heart. How many things I gave away.
All right, well, speaking of hurting hearts, let's get into our top 5 PS2 games. Dan, what's your number 5?
All right, so like I was saying, where I'm like all kind of like back and forth here with like the numbered ones. Like I was like, oh, God of War 2, I like more than 1, but then Onimusha.
See, this is you correcting Kyle wrongs right now. Onimusha being on a top 10. This is good stuff.
Needed to happen. Yeah,
I think.
Which one?
I think the second and third one definitely just there's kind of like more going on there gameplay wise. I really like the second one a lot, but like the first one is just it's so pure. It's just you got Samanosuke in there.
And it's great, but Samanosuke is where it's at,
exactly. It's like very iconic, and it was just like because I was kind of like in the beginnings of like loving the Resident Evil series, but then it's like then there's this samurai version of that. I was like, holy shit, dude!
Remember when Resident Evil came in different flavors? You get a dinosaur flavor and a samurai flavor as well. Like that was the good days.
Where's our Dino Crisis games? Come on!
Oh yeah, bring those back.
Both of these games would sell well right now. It makes no sense to me. Why
it's a shame because I think the remaster of Onimusha didn't sell well because it doesn't seem like.
And Onimusha is really Souls before Souls, like in a lot of ways, like really hard, like hard bosses, purposeful like movement. Like it's just sucking up souls and using souls to like upgrade.
Really absorbing.
I'm being I'm being like really narrow on the comparisons, but like there's some difficulty there that like existed back in the day.
Simplistic leveling up system there, but it was really fun watch because you only have in the first one you have the 3 basic weapons, but like I really enjoyed like you actually level up the weapons and like they actually look different as they're leveling up. Your gauntlet is like changing as you're leveling that up. Like it was
3 did that too. Like your weapons look different.
The whole series did that. Yeah, it was just such a cool thing of like visually seeing things. Yeah, it was really good. Great series.
So good.
All right, Kyle, what sneaked into your top 5?
Max Payne, the first one. I think the second one is a better game. Actually, I know it's a better video game, especially because you just added the ragdoll physics engine and stuff like that.
Okay.
So like that was like at the height. It was like one of the first games that came out where you're like, oh, people like move, which is so silly today. Like when things have ragdoll today, it's like cartoonish, but like back then, it's like that's how people fall. It's real physics, guys.
Oh. It's so fun. It's so fun.
And but the first one, it just put bullet time on the map. Like I remember it just being like, oh my God, this is the Matrix, everybody. You're playing the Matrix. But like this was one of the very first video games that like I was just like, holy crap, the writing is so good. I remember being a dumb kid and just being like, the writing is so good in this game. And now to this day, it's still one of the best written video games like in the history of video games, in my opinion. It's just
and R.I.P. the Max Payne voice guy, right? Then he passed away.
Yeah, absolutely. Back when Max Payne was
iconic voice.
And he looked like Sam Lake in this game, if you remember. It was Sam Lake's,
That's right. It was his
appearance.
like
So,
avatar or whatever you call it.
yeah. So I absolutely love Max Payne. It's just one of the greatest. And it's like the very first time I ever remember following a trail of baby blood through an abyss in a video game, and I go, now we're playing games, guys. This is it.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention Max Payne,
we're in a new realm of like depravity, you know?
Yeah, because Max Payne isn't on my top 10, but when I think of like iconic PS2 covers, and when I went into like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster to rent one,
Oh yeah.
that's one of the covers I picture, along with a handful of others.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's just the epitome of
I will admit that this
PS2
was more
games.
associated as an Xbox game, I feel like, when you think about like its
Yeah,
marketing
fair
and
enough.
stuff like that. But like it's I played it on PS2. I was a Sony boy at
I
this
didn't
point.
even go near an Xbox for a while there. I was like, what Xbox? I'm not.
Yeah, I got
no.
my fix a lot like from Halo from other friends. I did end up getting one way late, like in the generation, but
I
like
was won over
like,
with the 360, but the original Xbox I didn't really dive into at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, my number 5 is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which to me is the
nice.
top tier of the Grand Theft Auto experiences on the PS2. I understand
Oh,
I totally understand the love for 3. I thought it was game changing. I thought Vice City just told an immaculate story in a very unique setting, and I thought San Andreas just did so much. I couldn't believe the size of the world and the things that the gameplay elements they experimented with, some of which admittedly weren't great, but they still were amazing. The level of depth that Vice City and 3 didn't even get close to the level of depth. Now, some people say that's a negative. I totally understand that take, but man, San Andreas to me, because
it
I
still
love
feels like the biggest world in video games
the biggest
ever.
world, and like taking a dirt bike up into the mountains and stuff. Like I love a game where you can explore and have adventure. You know, Elden Ring, Witcher 3, etc. And so that's why San Andreas just clicked for me. And I remember waiting in line for this one. This is one of the few games
Me
I went
too.
and waited in line
I mean,
for.
This
So.
was
especially-
this is a huge midnight launch. I
It's a
remember
big
this.
Yep.
Especially after Vice City, which felt smaller than the first one, or 3 rather. Which
it did,
maybe it was.
'Cause 3 had 2 islands. I'm sorry, 3 had 3 islands, and 2 had just 2 like
It
big
felt
islands.
smaller.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
it
if
did
it
feel
was, but it
smaller.
did
I
feel
couldn't
smaller.
tell you if it actually is or not, though.
Yeah.
But then going into San Andreas, you're like, holy crap, this game
They had
is
Vegas. They had
massive.
3
they had, like,
cities.
Yeah.
It's just insane how many cities they like snuck into this game.
Yeah, it
And,
was so
then
huge.
like the zaniness you were talking about, playing around with mechanics, like the zaniness of breaking into Area 51 and getting the jetpack and flying out of there, like
Yep, breaking in,
That's
getting fat
so
or getting
cool.
buff.
Yep.
Or
oh
whatever.
yeah. Where is that?
Haircuts.
Like I miss that stuff, you know?
Like using a bicycle and like using that, like pedaling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
all these silly
We
things.
wouldn't have Grand Theft Auto 5 without San Andreas, you know?
Swimming. It was the first one you can swim in.
Yeah, because every other
Yeah,
time
that's
you died
true.
immediately.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
You
You were
touched
in
water,
Miami in the last game.
wasted.
You couldn't swim. That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
As soon as you touched the coastline, wasted.
Yep.
Yep.
The games. All right, let's move into number 4. Dan, what do you got?
Continuing with the OG trend, Devil May Cry. I will agree with
Nice.
Kyle. 3 is definitely gameplay wise. That's the one. That's where they hit that sweet spot, that tasty sweet spot. But man, that first one, and again, the whole Resident Evil thing, because originally this game was
That's true.
the DNA.
This is devil flavored Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We have 4
yeah.
different flavors.
the DNA of the Resident Evil, where that's what it was supposed to be, but then it shifted.
You guys
and
still
it
remember
became
the feeling of doing the uppercut and then holding them in the air with your guns as
Yes.
you shoot them?
Yes.
oh, yeah.
That
it was
first
so-
moment.
Yeah.
It was just
so
the
legendary.
slickness of this series was not. I mean, because God of War is like, it's brutal and it's visceral and
Yes.
like just nasty, and then Onimusha is like more tanky and like, you know, like you said, it's kind of like the difficulty of like your placement and how you're moving and blocking and using your abilities. But yeah, this has just had like a slickness to it, and you're literally graded on how well you do the combat and how slick you are using all of your weapons and stuff like that. Like. And just it gives you that Resident Evil like mansion vibe, because you're out on this island in this like creepy demon mansion thing, and just all these creepy marionette type monsters with the freaking like sickle hands or whatever they had.
I'm convinced Devil May Cry is why we have the platinum games we all know and love.
Oh,
and
for
like,
sure. Same. I mean, that's the creator of this game went off to make platinum games. Yeah. And some of the greatest boss fights in this, and I mean, on all the whole series, but like this game has such incredible boss fights.
I mean, this DNA of this is carried over to literally the newest Final Fantasy, which, whatever. All the schmucks out there want to bitch, moan, and complain about that game being an action game.
Those aren't real people to me. I think those are AI people. I don't know.
It's and we'll have to look back real quick when we wrap this up. Like, there are so many new IPs, just new franchises that were launched during PS2.
That's
and
true.
Devil May Cry was a really major
launch
one.
or cemented. Yeah.
Cemented. You're right. Yeah. Like maybe a sequel that finally made it like a legitimate one.
Right.
Very, very true. Kyle, what was your number 4?
My number 4 is Persona 4. I agree with Dan. Persona 3 is one that oh my god, it was my first Persona game. Not my first Shin Megami Tensei game. That was Nocturne, which is another honorable mention I forgot to mention.
Mm-hmm.
But this was my favorite of that Shin Mega 10 style games.
Yeah.
And 4, I just really like the small town vibes in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like the murder mystery. You're trying to figure out why people are being brutally murdered in this town. Again, it's this high schooler game, but it's extremely dark for no reason, just like 5, extremely dark for no reason. Yeah, I just love this series so much, and 4 is the one where, again, I like 3, but 4 is the one where I was just like, so this is going to be a series that I am going to love forever now. This is cool.
Yeah. By the way, folks, 3 and 4 are both on Game Pass, I believe, and they're both available on modern consoles, even if they're not in Game Pass anymore.
Yeah, you can buy these games on Switch and Steam Deck, and these are great games to grind away at on the go. So
yeah,
and 4 holds up. 4 is still a pretty sharp looking game.
All right, my number 4 is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I loved MGS2 Sons of Liberty. I thought was excellent, but 3 again, I think it just comes down to a Tim preference. Adventure, exploration, stealth. It added these elements of outdoorsiness that I really just latched onto. I loved the camouflage.
3 is considered the greatest in the franchise,
I
unanimously.
Loved 3, and you know what? I even enjoyed a full replay, which I finished on the 3DS, which I know wasn't a great version.
I played that one too, yeah.
But
I played it on the Vita, yeah.
Liked it, so whatever. Anyway, so 3 is such a good game. Beautiful. The music still is amazing. One of my favorite final boss encounters and story wrap-ups. All so good, man.
Story is so incredible.
When I think of Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid as a series, I picture 1 and 3. 1 because that's my first Metal Gear Solid game I played, obviously. And then I picture 3 because that's the one that just left the biggest impact for me personally. So yeah, that's my number 4. All right, guys.
God, I love that game so much.
Let's get into our top 3. Here we go. Dan, at number 3, what do you got?
All right. So we got 2 not RPGs and an RPG. I think you can.
I wonder what the RPG one is.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. If I could think of something dumb real quick, I'd say that, but I can't. But 3, Tim already mentioned. So Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. San Andreas was the one, and considering how massive that game is, I replayed that one more than the other 2, probably upwards of 5 or 6 times, and actually beat it 5 or 6 times.
That's impressive.
That's a lot.
I was obsessed.
That's your
with
Grand Theft Auto
game.
5. That's I've beaten 5 about that many times. Yeah.
Yeah, I was obsessed with that game, dude. It's
so good.
It's so good. Yeah, I love that game.
San Andreas is a perfect PS2 level, at least perfect open world video.
And it starts so small because it's you and your boys in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then it escalates
to the Area 51 stuff. How are you doing government contracts?
I gotta tell you, if Rockstar told us, Rockstar told us, hey, we're delaying 6 because we're doing a remake of San Andreas, I'd be like, okay,
it's gonna play like Grand Theft Auto 5, but it's just it's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Sure,
fuck 6.
Yeah, I don't want to. Don't even make 6. I don't need these. I don't need social media influencers in Miami. No, give me San Andreas.
Yeah, well. You know the meme of him oh shit, here we go again. I'd be like, oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. Okay. That would
All right,
be
Kyle,
fantastic.
what's your number 3?
Dan is gonna correct me, so I appreciate him on this one, but it's Final Fantasy X. I wanted to put Final Fantasy 12 on here, but Final Fantasy 12 I fell in love with years later.
Sure.
And 10 is still better than 12, and that's just a fact. I'm sorry, everybody.
I agree with you, and I actually have 12 on my honorable mention list. 12 is a good time, but 10.
12 is so excellent, and I remember my first thoughts on this game were just so incredibly wrong, and I will never live that down, which is why I always try and go. Maybe 13 is that way too, and every time I play it, I go, no, 13 is just fine with a lowercase f, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be great.
10 was the last great Final Fantasy turn-based game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
10 is excellent. I won't spend too much time on it now because I'm sure we'll get to it later. But it is my favorite story in video games. It is maybe it's my favorite cast of characters maybe in video games. It is my favorite soundtrack in all of video games. Every version of it, the old version, the piano version, and the new version are all on my constant playlist. I've probably fallen asleep to that music more than any other sound in the history of sound.
How about those cutscenes, especially when you watch them then?
Oh my god, they still look great to this day. Like, I remember like looking at those and being like, oh my god, like that scene where he's like skating down those
even the
poles.
opening scene with like the sphere of water and the attack that's happening. It's like,
he's sitting down, getting ready for the blitzball match that's about to happen. Like,
Orin's the greatest video game character of all time. So this game literally has it all. It's got everything. I'm sure we'll talk about it more later.
Yeah. So
or we won't. I don't know.
My number 3, because I was so offended by Kyle earlier when he said this. I'm just kidding. No, my number 3 is Resident Evil 4. That was actually solidified.
Right. Spot.
It was solidified a little more when I played the remake this year, and this past year, and I loved it. Start to finish, I thought it was beautiful. It's everything I wanted from the remake of it, but it just reminded me of how much I loved the original when I first played it. And it's so good. And I remember playing it again.
We still play games like that to this day because of what this game did. Right. To this day, we still play games like that.
So for me personally, and some people take this as an affront, and I'm sorry, but it was the first Resident Evil game that I finally connected with gameplay wise. I understood the appeal of the other ones.
Yeah.
I just never liked the way they controlled. I just was like, it's not my thing.
But
like 4,
opinion.
all of a sudden I was like, ooh. Now, if you go back and play 4 now on that system, it controls like crap compared to games now. I understand that. But like it was such a step ahead for me personally. 4 was just so good. And it was a true like action adventure with light RPG elements that I really wanted in a game like this, and it was excellent.
Well, the story was wacky enough. Like I know it gets like really ridiculous in the back half, but like it's still like engaging enough where you're like, I gotta figure out what happens in this like nuttiness next.
Yep, absolutely loved it. So that's RE.
Imagine making organizing your items like fun, like just having this like thing that you expand.
My OCD love the attaché case. Oh my god, I'm just like, if I move these things over here, I can fit like 2 more items. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
So fun.
All right, Dan, number 2.
And side note, Resident Evil 4, I technically didn't have on the list at all. It would be under honorable mentions, mainly because for me, it was a GameCube experience. That's actually where I played it first, and that is where it came out first, technically. Right.
Sure.
So that's why I don't have it on PS2.
I didn't own
Resident Evil 4 is great.
I actually didn't catch up on GameCube games until I got a Wii because it was backwards compatible. So
guys, remember when you could just put a disc into something and it just
No, I know. When did that happen? So number 2, Metal Gear Solid 2.
Nice.
Yes.
Which was not my first Metal Gear, because I had the demo for Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1, and I remember playing that quite a few times. But 2 was like whatever Christmas happened after I got my PS2, because I didn't get PS2 at launch. I got it like maybe a year or 2 in. But like I remember getting Metal Gear Solid 2 for Christmas because I recognized the name based off of the demo. And dude, that shit blew my mind. Like I was like, what even is it? Like I'm playing like this movie, the freaking espionage movie, and then you're in the
with 45 minutes at least.
Yeah. And you're playing this badass snake dude with like a mullet, and you're on this tanker, and just like, it's just such a vibe. And then the twist happens, and you're like, what's going on? What is that? What even is this? Who's this guy? Who is this blonde bimbo? Like, what's going on?
Give me back my main character. But then over time, you're like, never mind. I kind of like this guy.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like hate Raiden, and like he may have gotten his redemption in 4, but I always liked Raiden because like it was just it's like, what if we just took somebody and just threw him into this crazy situation, and at what point is his mind gonna break? And that's literally the story of the game.
That's what happens.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Snake over there is like, yeah, I'm Pliskin. I'm totally Pliskin. Like, I'm absolutely Pliskin. And like, no, you're Snake. No, I'm Pliskin. Trust me, I'm Pliskin.
And then I love Snake. That. He's like, hey, I'm Solid Snake. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
guys, I'm actually Snake.
I know. So mind-bendy. Yeah, they weren't telling stories like that outside of those games.
And like, we've talked at nauseum about Metal Gear, but just all the political stuff and like the messaging, especially towards the end. And you're like, oh, this is happening.
More relevant today than it was back then.
Yeah,
that ending.
That's insane.
The control of information, the editing, the live editing of like of news and stuff like that. The drip feed, you know, like
Yeah.
it's very AI controlling all that stuff, like creating scenarios and stuff like that, creating
Happening
fake
now.
news, and it's all that stuff. It's more relevant today than it was 20 years ago when it came out. So
By the
just think
way,
about
if
that.
anything, that should make you fearful that Kojima can see the future. Because if you've played Death Stranding, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We're in
And
a lot
Death
of-
Stranding happened immediately, so like just like
we're in trouble,
the
I don't know
slow burn on this one was.
Yeah.
I don't know how to build roads in real life, guys. So I think
I don't either,
I'm
man.
effed.
It ain't gonna be at the press of a button. I'll tell you that.
Not
No.
gonna happen. Yeah.
No, screwed.
All right, Kyle, what's your number 2?
My number 2, and basically this is the only reason I pitched this whole idea, is if you know me, you'll know me for a long time. I'll talk about Way of the Samurai anywhere you'll let me, and this was all a ruse.
That's all this was.
So we could talk about Way of the Samurai again.
Settle in, guys.
This might be the game that I have the most hours in any video game ever. I probably have like 2,000, 3,000 hours in this game on the PS2.
Jeez.
It may be the reason my first PS2 broke, you know, just like the disc read error and stuff like that. This game, just a reminder, is a choose your own adventure, open world samurai game. You know, we have Ghost of Tsushima and stuff like that because of this game. And you could do a run in 45 minutes, or some runs last 2.5 minutes, and it's all about just like the very first thing you do is you walk onto a bridge, and on that bridge there's a woman being oppressed, and what you do there cements you on multiple different paths, whether you save the woman, ignore the woman, walk away from the entire conflict, side with the bad guy who's, you know, beating the woman or whatever, and like kick her or whatever, and that sends you on another path, and all that stuff spider webs out until like, I don't know, I think it's like 24 different endings or something like that. Dang, and anything that you take with you at the very end of the game, like your swords and stuff like that, are there for your next game, and you can constantly like upgrade your swords and get better drops off of weapons. Yeah, it's a roguelike. Yeah,
God damn it!
Because if you do die, you drop all your swords. You do. If you do die, you lose your swords.
Yeah.
It is a rogue. Oh, dang it! Yeah,
it's all connected. It's all connected.
It is also the third and fourth game is available on Steam. They're cheap. They're some of the best games you can buy, man. What's that? Yes, they made 4 total. And over there they have Way of the Ninja. They have all these other games that never made its way over here in Japan. This is a series that I always hope we get more of. I doubt we ever will, but like 4 is a perfect version of this game. It was on the PS3. You can get it on Steam. It runs like a dream on Steam. Definitely pick that game up. This is one of the greatest franchises that nobody knows about, that I will always, always, always champion. And it is definitely one of my favorite games of all time.
That's a great pick. I love it. It's one that it's a deep cut because I haven't really gotten into that series, so I love hearing about it.
I don't know anybody who has.
Would you say that the Yakuza games almost kind of like replace that a bit? Or?
Yeah. Maybe not in its loop, you know, or the way that it spider webs out. But yeah, I think that there's some similarities there because the beat 'em up factor of it feels really good. And Ishin, like a Dragon Ishin, feels very much like Way of the Samurai to me. Very much so.
Nice. All right, so for my number 2 game, there's actually a better version of it that came out on the system, but this one just hit home for me more. So the better version is Hitman Blood Money. That's the best Hitman game of that generation.
Dude, I forgot about that one.
But my personal favorite was Hitman 2 Silent Assassin.
Mine too, Tim. Me and you both, buddy.
Not only did it have an amazing story, and it really dug into the background of 47, and you got the conspiracy and the cloning and all the crazy stuff that was happening. It's like, holy crap, this like blew my mind. And there is a specific moment where you have a target, and I won't give a total spoiler in case you ever go back to play it. But as soon as you look into the sights and you see who it is, you're like, what is happening? Like what's happening in this game? So IO just blew my mind with that story. And so I played the first Hitman game on an old school gaming PC, and I liked it, but boy, was it janky and stiff. It just didn't feel right. Hitman 2 introduced ideas like crouching and kind of run crouching, and the idea of like snapping to surfaces to like hide, and like it just made gameplay snappy and quick. It's nowhere near what Hitman is now. Hitman now I think controls really, really well. So I'm so glad that it's modernized. But boy, Hitman 2, I played through that game probably 7 or 8 times.
I love that game.
Hitman 2. So that just holds a special place, even though admittedly Blood Money is better in every way. Maybe not story, but better in every way, gameplay wise, missions, it's got more variety. It's so good, and it looks better.
That was the first one I played.
But yeah, so Blood Money is amazing. It's probably a better, objectively better game. But for me personally, Hitman 2 just hit really close for me.
What a great choice.
Yeah, love Hitman 2. All right, Dan, it's time for our number one game. What's your top PS2 game?
Katamari No, I'm just kidding.
I knew
That's
it.
a great choice.
I knew it.
Honorable mention that one. Sorry.
Barbie's Dream Horse or whatever.
The horsiest game of all
The
horsey
horsiest game.
All right, so obviously Final Fantasy X. Yeah, like we had mentioned earlier, like I mean FMVs was always a fun thing with all the PS1 Final Fantasies, but yeah, like when they played that first one there, yeah, like you said, him getting ready for the Blitzball match, and then Orin shows up, and then you see the wave off in the distance coming. You're like, what the hell even is that? Yeah. And he's just standing there, like perched up on some like freaking Batman, just staring out at Sin, just approaching, and you're doing what you're doing in the beginning there, fighting with Orin, and then like you wake up in this place and you and freaking they're like, oh, you have whatever sickness, I forget what specifically they say he has, and you find out you're like in the future, maybe not in the future. It's just, and you're in this tropical environment that has like, they're all like anti-machina, which is machines, and religion's such a big thing, and I mean. And the voice acting, the first voice acted Final Fantasy,
big
which
deal.
Obviously compared to nowadays, I mean, it's very, the quality wise, not quite
it's
on
still
par,
not
but,
like unlistenable,
Yeah,
like,
well,
it's still
that's the point I'm trying to make.
Enough.
There are definitely people like, oh, it's cringy, and it's like, dude, guys, this is the first voice acted Final Fantasy. Like, they did a pretty solid job, all things considering.
Oh yeah.
Blitzball is a great mini game. People are silly for not enjoying it. You're just bad at Blitzball, so you're bad at sports.
And it had all the things that I loved from previous Final Fantasy games of getting all the secret optional bosses and weapons and things you can
bosses, the weapons, the accessory or armor or whatever it is. Story wise, it's so, and Kyle and it was you, me, and Jesse. We did the Chocobros episode about Final Fantasy X versus Final Fantasy 13. And a couple of the main things for me, because people are always like, oh, well, those are both linear games, but why does everybody excuse 10? It's like, because 10 has a better and more interesting world, lore, and the cast of characters.
Yeah.
And that carries a lot of weight.
Is the pacing better too?
The pacing is better, and also there is a reason that the game is linear. You are on a path to Spira, like you are walking a pilgrimage.
You're on a pilgrimage.
You know what I mean? So you're not like, you know what I mean? Like you're on a pilgrimage. Like no one goes.
13 is just cause.
Yeah, 13 is like we got to escape this big thing via hallways. We have to escape this sky prison via hallways. Yeah. Which is fine. I think Dan and I both are also agreeing, probably you too as well, Tim. Like linear games are fine, and I don't mind. Yeah. You could make another linear Final Fantasy, and I'd be fine with it.
Sure.
But like, I think the story reason for 10, I think if people need an excuse for why it gets excused, like that's why. Like there is a actual reason for it. So.
100%.
But yeah, it's just such a special game. It's just such a special game. There's so much.
Hey Dan, when's the last time you replayed 10?
Well, I have I have the remaster of 10 and 10-2 collection on PS3 and PS4. So I mean, maybe like whenever the PS4 version released, I don't know if that was like 4 years ago or so. But I definitely will. I mean, because I'm gonna stream all the Final Fantasies, kind of actually.
Working up to
I'll poke into a 10 one for sure.
Yeah,
me too.
So I'll definitely get to 10 eventually. So,
Dude,
but yeah,
so
what a wonderful game.
And not a surprise pick, of course. We all know you really well, but it is a very worthwhile pick. It's in all of our top 10s. So there you go.
That going.
Yeah. It might be the only one. Is it the only one that was in all of our top 10s? It might be. We'll find out, I guess.
With some Metal Gears and
but we had different Metal Gears. I think 10 might be the only specific game in all of our top 10s. We'll see. Kyle, what's your number one?
Speaking of knowing people really well, I think you can probably guess what my number one is, but it's Metal Gear Solid 3 is the better game. I will say that. I think everyone will agree that Metal Gear Solid 3 is the best in the series. I think everybody universally likes it when the best. I like For the Best, I'm a big fanboy sucker. So like that game was for fanboys and that was for me.
Culmination.
That was also the criticism of that game is like, oh, it was too like appeasing the fans. I'm like, appease away, baby. That's why I'm here, But 2 is my favorite just because I think this game at a time where I was, or at the age I was, like I could have and almost became a full-blown conspiracy theorist because of this game. Where I'm like, they're controlling our minds, man, and like, and now even more when I played the 2 just recently last year when it came out in October. I had my best friend that I've ever done in that game, and I remember playing that game and just being like, this is more. We got to get our tinfoil hats back out, everybody! Like it's happening. Like,
get to the bunker.
Kyle runs to the closet and grabs his own.
Yeah, the Doomsday Preppers were right. This game blows my mind. We can go into some of the specifics, like shooting people's radios and them reacting to that, and just like the fight with at the very first boss fight with Olga, like shooting the tarp and the tarp blinding her because of the way that it's whipping in the wind and stuff like that.
Shooting lights and
you're
actually
shooting lights.
Yeah,
she's shining lights at you. It's blinding you. You have to like find where the light is and shoot it. It's just like it's so excellent.
All these games have amazing boss fights, starting with 1.
Yeah.
And 2 had amazing ones. 3 had epic ones.
This game still looks sharp too. Like when you're looking at the mouths move with the words, and it's just so cinematic.
There are games in 2024 that don't do that.
There are. Yeah. And I just you said the best boss fights. It's just like this is probably one of 2. I don't know. This is my favorite soundtrack. This is like picking one from Final Fantasy. Like all the music in all of these games are absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it is 2 might be the reason that like I love video games in the way that I love them. Playing 1, I beat it at my friend's house. I didn't own a PlayStation 1 until much later. Obviously, I bought it whenever I got it. So whenever I got PlayStation 2, like getting Metal Gear Solid 2 was the only mission. Like that and Grand Theft Auto Vice City, I think they came out around the same time. I was like, I gotta buy these games. I gotta own them. But yeah, 2 was the reason that I bought a PS2. And man, I remember beating that game. I think I've told the story on the podcast before, but I got broken up with by my high school girlfriend because I was late to like 3 parties in a row because I was playing this game. The last time it happening was I just beat Metal Gear Solid Ray, and I texted, "Hey, I'm on my way." And I don't know if y'all know this game very well, but there's about an hour and a half to 2 hours of this mission after that.
Sure.
20 minutes of gameplay, but an hour and some change of cutscenes wrapping it all up. And I just remember being like, I swear to God, I'm on the road right now. Dude. 45 minutes later, 45 minutes later, yeah. And I remember getting that text, forget about it. We'll talk in the morning or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know what? Worth it. I made the right decision because, like, I have that memory forever. I barely remember that girl's name.
Oh, see, there you go.
True.
So like I
gives new meaning to the term "Sons of Liberty." You got your freedom.
I got my freedom
from that situation. Yeah.
One of the greatest like endings in video games ever, too.
Great
like where, and I'm gonna spoil it. Who gives a shit at this point? But like when at the end of it, where you're trying to find the Patriots, like, and then you realize they're all dead, or we're all dead, since like 1919 or 1930 or something like that. It's just like. Just love this game
that
so
dialogue
much,
at the end. It's just the words,
and
then
you just the credits are done rolling. You just got wowed by a bunch of great jazz music at the very end of the game. Can't Say Goodbye to Yesterday, one of the greatest ending theme songs in the history of video games. And yeah, I just love this game.
It's fantastic.
It also holds. It's one of those rare sequels that outdid its predecessor. Like a lot of the games we've mentioned do that. Yeah. But like that one, because Metal Gear Solid is such a classic from the PS1, and it's a favorite of many, myself included, on that console. Yeah. But yeah, it was just better in every way.
And 3 did the same thing. It just took what 2 did and just did it better.
But similar with me with Hitman 2, like it just hit you in a way different. Even though you recognize the next one does improve and everything.
Absolutely.
This one works for me. I totally get it.
And that happens sometimes. Yeah, just get
get it. You guys, there's a game we haven't mentioned, a PS2 classic that is my number 1 that none of us have even mentioned, and I didn't know if you guys had even mentioned it as the honorable, didn't make the cut, something, but no one has said it. Do you happen to know?
Blow our mind here in a second.
Can you think of a PS2 game that, without looking it up, that we haven't mentioned?
Is Shadow of the Colossus? Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, okay.
No! Why did I leave? I forgot about this game on my honorable mentions. Yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus is that was like, as I made my list and I looked at it, I was like, well, that's my favorite one out of all these.
Sure.
It
I've
was technically like that
Yeah.
was on PS2.
I couldn't believe that it worked on the PS2. I played it several times, and then of course I replayed the remake on PS4. It was beautiful and amazing. I highly recommend it. But I mean, this shouldn't surprise you because if you look at my list of favorite games, it's usually the big grand adventures with a sense of awe and like, give me the Zelda, give me the Elden Ring. Like that's my thing. Like that's what I want. I want the big open world where I can go and find and be like, whoa, what is this? Like that feeling of awe. So that's always gonna click with me. Even with a game that's not great, but in this case, this game is amazing. It removed completely any little enemies. You don't level up. You're not doing anything like there's no little enemies that are going to hop out of a bush that you got to fight your way through to get to a boss. You literally are just on your horse. There's hardly any dialogue outside of you saying the horse's name or some dialogue you don't understand if it weren't for the subtitles. Very little dialogue. And you're just using your sword to like shine a light to see where's the next boss, and you go that direction and hope that that's correct. And
It's
man,
almost kind of creepy, just how barren
it
and
feels like
just,
an afterlife
yeah.
type of experience.
Yeah.
And that's for good reason. And actually a really interesting story too, very heartbreaking
Yeah,
story.
I think the ending is very crazy and very dark.
Yeah, really, really interesting, really sad. But man, super creative boss battles, beautiful art design. Like it's a piece of art. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah.
Like it is an
I
actual
totally
piece of
agree.
art. And I know people don't like The Last Guardian as much. I don't like it as much as this, but I love that game too. I think it hits some of those same notes, but this one's just special. Like nothing else like it out there. So it's by far my personal favorite. It's very unique compared to the rest of these.
I was shocked that this was like the follow-up to Eco, which like I was not a huge fan of because it was just
it
like
was okay. I didn't
it was
really
kind of
get
like
into
a babysitting video game,
Sure.
when you had to do every like puzzle twice, which like
So
that's
many
like Kyle
puzzles.
Kryptonite. Like you did it once and then you did it again with the girl, and I'm like, shoot me.
Yeah.
But this game was like such a like that game where you just walked around with a chick holding her hand. Like this was the next thing that they did. This giant.
Yeah.
Like almost no game since has done anything like this, really.
Yeah.
Not to this kind of effect. So
And to me it was I think it's part of why I really like certain elements of Souls-like games like Elden Ring, where it's you go and you try it and you're like, this isn't working. How in the world am I supposed to hurt this thing? There is no weak point. Like the first three bosses, you showed me how to find a weak point. There is no weak point, and then you start to think things through, like, oh, there's actually these tunnels I could go under, and if I hide under here, this thing will come above the tunnel and look for me, and then I can just sneak around behind it, and there's its weak spot. It's now like it has all these special ways. Jump out and grab on the guy's beard, or get on your horse and jump from there, or wait for it to swoop down, and you have to time your jump and grab on the wing.
That one was always the one I always think of when I think of this game.
So creative, so good. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, but we've mentioned a lot of really good PlayStation 2 games. Maybe one of the best consoles. Maybe one of the best selling guys. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it is.
PS2.
It's the best selling.
PS2 pretty okay. It's pretty
okay console. Yeah.
It has
again, they came out in like a lot of our formative years. Like it seems like it really cemented the types of video games we like to play going forward. Just a very, very, very informative generation, and specifically consoles. So
yeah, it came out at the end of 2000. I was late on getting this one. I think I got it. I want to say 2003, maybe. Like I was a few years.
I think I got it about 2003 as well.
Yeah,
I got it the year that Vice City came out.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I had played it. I had experienced GTA 3. That was mind blowing, of course. I played at my brother's house, I think.
Yeah.
But I didn't really invest in one for a few years, and when I did, I went back and caught up on everything that I could get my hands on.
A funny anecdote about GTA 3, and I'll keep this short, is I only played that game at friends' house, and we would just trade controllers, trying to get as many stars as you could, and just see how long you could survive. When I bought the console and started playing GTA Vice City, and like there was like a story, I was like, "There's stories and missions in this game." I had no idea. Like I literally had no idea. Yeah. So when I sat down and played it, I was just like, "Oh my god, there's objectives."
You know what? It's funny. I actually never completed the main storyline of GTA 3. I don't even think I owned it. I played it at my brother's house. I think I borrowed a copy of it.
I beat them too. There's one mission in GTA 3 where you have to like smash in the coffee shops, but none of the coffee shops are listed on the map. You just have to know where all the coffee shops are,
kind of
and you have like 10 minutes to do it. On replays, I always get there and I never beat it. But I have beat that game.
Yeah, I never did. But then once Vice City came out, by then I either had one or maybe I got one and Vice City had been out. Anyway, I just remember playing that one ad nauseum, and then I was ready to wait in line for San Andreas when that was announced. I was ready
owning
for
properties in Vice City was the best. Like and like
Oh,
going
yeah.
to all of them and picking up your money. You know, like
Yeah,
it just you felt so powerful.
That's one where I raised my wanted level as high as I could while I was standing on top of a roof with the rocket launcher. Like, let's do this thing. You know, like,
let's knock it out.
So fun. Yeah, PS2, good memories, good times. Thanks for joining us on this little not so current top 10 experience. Well done, everybody. A couple of headlines to highlight, some good, some in between. Not as like last week, I know we went pretty negative, but by the way, we were probably the most optimistic as I listened through a lot of conversations and read a lot of conversations around it. The general vibe is Xbox is done, and this isn't just from ponies. It's even people who like Microsoft, just like maybe not done, but like they're dead to me, or I hate what they're doing.
That happens a lot, though.
Some version, but this feels unique. This is a little different.
It does feel unique, I will say. Yeah, I feel it's like we've been here before, but not like this. You know,
it's like weirdly trust breaking with them, like having a super successful studio that they said they support this kind of work, but then ultimately, when it came down to dollars and cents, they don't. So it's like should have just said, we'll support creative work if it makes money. Like that's what you should have said, because that's what you mean.
Yeah. Well, like I think I had said that before. I was like, listen, I would have more respect, even though it would sound shitty, if these companies were just like, listen, sorry everybody, but we care about money above all else.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make money, and you know, sometimes if something beautiful makes a bunch of money, hey, then it's a win-win for everybody. But hey, sorry, you know.
Yeah, money
it would suck, but
money keeps the lights on, not vibes. I'd be like, listen, that's a really shitty thing to say, but they're right.
Also, we talked about it a little bit, but I think, I do think Microsoft's, it wasn't just Call of Duty, and we talked about that. I think that's a big part of it. I think it might have even been more about the mobile gaming stuff, which we're going to hear about. Apparently, I listened to the whole Sarah Bond interview. July, they're rolling out a big plan with mobile gaming stuff. I think we're about to see a pretty big shift, at least in some ways, from Microsoft. They're going to make a lot of money, and we're going to hate it as gamers. I could be wrong, but I
couldn't care less about mobile anything ever.
That doesn't mean they're not going to announce a Gear 6 or the next Halo. Like I still think they'll do that.
I think we're going to get. I think they know they have to show up for their showcase in June. Yeah. I think we're probably going to get the best showcase we've ever seen, and I also think it's going to be lies, deceit, and bullshit. And we're not going to see any of this stuff for a long time.
There's going to be cool stuff, right? They'll be like, here's Avowed, and it's coming out on this date, and Outer Worlds 2, and
you get Indiana Jones.
I think
these things are coming out soon.
We might get a Gear 6 announcement. Like there might be some really exciting stuff.
There are rumors that a like battle royale style Halo game that was originally like in development, that quote unquote got quietly canceled, was actually never canceled, and that's probably ready and coming out this year. These are kind of wild rumors, but it came from someone who is pretty valid. So you never know, man. There's a lot of things that could be, would be, but we'll see here in a few weeks. So,
well, speaking of needing to make money, Grand Theft Auto 5 continues to make a lot of money for Rockstar and 2K. So they're up to, this can't be real. 200 million units of GTA 5. That can't be real.
It's real. That's real.
Fake. That's fake news.
So, and that's 100 million units from the first place game. Can y'all guess what it is?
Minecraft?
It is Minecraft. It's about 100 million. It's about 300 million units sold. Minecraft is. So yeah.
Sure.
300 million?
Yep.
That's more than twice the number of
costs less.
That's because everyone, like, if you own Minecraft, you have probably purchased it on like 2 or 3 different things. You know what I mean? You probably bought it on like a laptop and like your Xbox and your Switch and your what what I mean? Like people just own it everywhere.
That's so many copies. That's insane.
That's cool though. GTA 5, 200 million units. When we talk about like
the problem is that's when Microsoft looked at that and they were like, well, let's fire Tango. They didn't sell that many. It's like, dude, no, that's not a good comparison. Don't do that.
When you talk about Breath of the Wild selling like 48 million copies, and it's like, dude, that's so many. That's a crazy amount of copies for Zelda. That's
a fourth.
That's a fourth of what GTA did.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me. Like,
yeah, that is insane. Well, that's, I think, a big reason why you'll see certain acquisitions and certain companies doubling down into fields that don't excite us as much. But GTA 5 isn't selling 200 million units because of its really fun single-player campaign. That's not why it's selling those. It's GTA Online and their continued support of that is where those copies are going. So Not that it wouldn't have sold a lot with just a single player. It definitely would have. And maybe what would have broken records. Maybe it would have been 100 million, but like a lot of those are because of their live service approach to GTA. Let's be honest, that's what's happening.
Yeah,
but
people want to drive nice cars and grieve people. Like that's
what's
they
happening.
Do. Yeah.
And I mean, GTA 5 has been released on multiple generations. So
yeah.
It has.
So
yeah, because that was originally, was that a 360 PS3 game originally?
Yep.
It was, yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
Then went to 4, then 5, yeah.
Dang.
And then, yeah, it's crazy. And I bought it on every single console, pal.
I bought them all, pal.
I bought them all, pal.
I've been catching up on Dudesy again too. What a fun show. All right. Speaking of classic games, Game Boy games, Super Mario Land, Alleyway I'm not familiar with, but then Baseball. I remember that one. Those are all added.
Oh, Alleyway, is that with the ball bouncing off of the paddle at the bottom? Is that Alleyway?
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's yeah, because I actually, well, maybe I don't have it anymore, but I had the original Game Boy card for that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so those are added to Switch Online.
Like a breakout clone?
Yeah. So
Super Mario Land is weird. If you guys haven't played that one, really strange.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah.
It's fun, but it's very strange. Like everything looks like it's from I don't know, like an alternate universe version of Mario. Yeah. Like nothing looks quite right. Now, when they did Super Mario Land 2, the Golden Coins, it started looking like Mario again. I love that one. They introduced Wario, and it's really creative. But yeah, Super Mario Land, very, very strange. There's even like these weird submarine and airplane sections that are not at all Mario-like. It's just very, very weird. But I did like it. I have good memories with it. And then Baseball is exactly what it sounds like, but I still love the mechanics of that. It's like 2 buttons, and I still found it to be super fun. We'd probably equate it to like a mobile game experience now with how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I loved that game. Brings back a lot of good memories. Baseball. Hey, what game is that? Baseball.
Baseball.
Just name it the thing that it is. I love it.
Exactly that.
So Jim Ryan is so powerful that he needed 2 CEOs to replace him over at Sony. That's what we can take away, right? The PlayStation CEO position. We can take away that he was he was so powerful that there wasn't a single human being in existence, man or woman, who could have filled those shoes. They needed 2.
Well, they also wanted to do that one episode of The Office when
I was absolutely thinking that, where it's like he'll handle day to day, he'll handle big picture, and then later they tried to explain it to Charles, like, you're his number 2. It's like, oh my gosh, it feels so embarrassing to try to explain it. But anyway, they've hired Herman Hulst, who is previously from Guerrilla Games.
Yep.
And also they hired Hideaki Nishino. Is that how you say it?
Sure.
I'm not sure if that's pronounced correctly, but he is previously
Hidetaki? No, it's
also part of. They're both internal PlayStation guys. Holst and Nishino are both PlayStation guys who have been essentially leveled up into this split co-CEO role for PlayStation.
Co-CEO and co-CEO.
Nothing can go wrong. It worked great for the co-managers of Dunder Mifflin.
I wonder who the assistant to the co-CEOs.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's great. I hope that they do. I mean, I like what Herman Hulst has done, of course, with Guerrilla Games and the direction it's gone. So more power to them. I want more good stuff from PlayStation. Do not want them to acquire and liquidate assets like Microsoft and Embracer have done.
I think they bought Bungie. They didn't get an immediate what they wanted out of that, and they're like, we're not going to do that again. Which is like, I feel like they did show a little resolve. I know Sony's has its fair share of
for sure
egotistical problems this generation or whatever, but like not overbuying has been very not one of their issues. So I hope they continue that.
Yeah, they always play things very close to the vest, which is why they're frustrating with multi-platform stuff and with bringing their stuff to PCs, but doing it in weird ways. That's just because they're a little more careful compared to, of course, Microsoft for sure.
And they always buy in-house too. Like it's like we're gonna buy Insomniac. It's like, well, you already have a relationship with them.
You don't already own them.
Sure.
It's really safe purchases, which I think is smart.
Yeah. Well, they don't have Microsoft money. That's the thing. Microsoft has a lot of money.
Well, Nintendo has done similar things. They've officially acquired studios that we've always thought were Nintendo studios anyway, so it doesn't feel like an acquisition. It's kind of like marrying someone you've lived with for 15 years. It's like, you guys aren't married?
Oh. Yeah, right.
So anyway, so yeah, there you go. Good luck to the co-CEOs over there at Sony. Did you guys like the newest Mortal Kombat movie? when
Yeah.
it came out. I think it was 2 years
Yeah.
ago now.
Yeah,
I
liked
enjoyed it.
I had some
It
problems
definitely
with it, but
wasn't
like
perfect,
it's
It's a good
exactly.
time,
It wasn't
right?
perfect, but it's a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. So the second one's coming out in 2025, but I really liked it. I liked the setup for the sequel as well. I thought some of the
Yeah.
lore was pretty fun. Some of the
I
moments
don't
were certainly
I don't
very
know why
cheap.
you
It was
need to
fun.
like create a boring character to and like
Right.
there's so many characters you could just
I
like
know.
follow them like they're
It
like
was
let's
it
It
was
was
come
like
up
almost
a
like
with
they
a
didn't
creative
dumb
want they
character.
didn't want to repeat the like Liu Kang thing, like, oh, Liu Kang's the make. It's like,
But let's
it's
get
fine.
real. That's kind of what I wanted. You know, like,
Yeah,
just follow
it's
Liu Kang. It's okay. Like he's a
yeah,
pretty good
exactly.
in to this universe. But
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah, I feel like that's if I have to have Louis Tran be my or
that's
Louis
fine.
Tan be my like window into this
It
universe.
was like
whatever.
a default created character that they didn't do anything fun. They just
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It
That's
felt
what
like
it felt like.
when you make a Soul Calibur character, but you don't add anything
but
to
you don't
him.
do anything to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyways, that's supposed to come out next year.
I got the power of Tonfas. Shut up. Shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Just show me the other guys that I care about.
Give me Scorpion
again.
and well, I almost said
Sub-Zero.
Wolverine. Give me Scorpion
More
and
of that.
Sub-Zero, yeah.
Because we
Yeah,
did
give
get
me
that,
more of that.
which
Give me
was
Shao
sick.
Kahn. Yeah,
it
give me
was
those
sick. That part was sick, yeah.
So good.
was
That their fight is amazing.
They had
Both of
two
them, both
great
their
fights, yeah,
Yeah.
at the very beginning and the very end. Very good.
Love both. So we talked about mobile games a little bit. Weirdly, to me, this is weird because I feel like it had to be almost ready. The Division Heartland has been canceled by Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, I don't care because I don't want them to spend. I don't want studios and developers and publishers that I like to spend time and resources on stuff I'm never going to play.
What's
That's just-
funny though is they already spent the time and resources on
Shut up,
this
Kyle.
one.
Shut up. No, but like, let's say that they launched it and it had even a medium amount of success. They are now going to be continuing to pump resources towards maintaining this thing and make more money.
They
Part of me
better
is
have broken
okay,
this
good.
down and put everything into Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah,
all
put it all
of
in Outlaws.
put it all on Outlaws.
Put it into the Division 3. Like I don't
Yeah.
care. Like make something that I care about and I will play. So
I
I
did a
don't
little
care.
digging, and this was
That's
apparently Battle Royale DLC for 2. And then they're like, "Yeah, let's just spin this
Let's
off
make
into
it a
something
mobile
different."
game.
Yeah, let's make it a mobile game, a gotcha game, you know, and good. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks that like it went down,
Good.
but like this is what happens when you follow trends and don't think
Yeah.
about like how long trends last for and how
Yeah.
long game developments last for. Like, you can't start a game on like in the middle of a trend. You know, like you're not gonna make it. You know. And that whole sector is spoken for now. Like, if you're playing a battle royale game, you're playing Call of Duty or you're playing Fortnite. You're not playing PUBG anymore. You know, you're not playing, you know, any of the other versions of this. Remember the Battlefield one? Remember when Battlefield had one? That's not happening anymore. You know, so
it's funny that you're talking about trends, Kyle, because I don't know I don't think it was last episode. I think it was after last episode. Square laying off people.
Yeah.
I don't think you put that in the notes, Tim.
Did not.
And you know why they had to do that? Because loss of money. You know why? Because following trends. Stop doing that, Square.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also Square is saying, hey, screw this exclusive stuff. We're gonna be focused on putting everything on everything.
Yeah.
You deserve that. You know what I mean? Like, you deserve to have your games played everywhere. You deserve that opportunity. I don't know why Sony wasn't paying you more money. You know, like Sony should have been paying more money for these exclusives, you know, these things were guaranteed to break even.
I mean,
these
the
were
PS5
bad
is
deals,
selling about as well as it can, and as an exclusive, 16, of course, Foam Stars, but that's still on a release of theirs, and Rebirth all undersold their expectations, even knowing they were all PS5 exclusives. So, yeah,
well,
I mean,
they've been notorious about that too. About like, oh, well, we didn't sell enough. With the American studio,
all the
or
Tomb Raider
Europeans.
games never sold enough. You know, they've been annoying about it for sure.
But yeah, the NFT stuff, freaking Foam Stars, Babylon. Y'all remember Babylon's Fall? Remember that game?
Why would you wait? So that's the platinum game that went gold, not Scalebound. We got Babylon's Fall. You know, like, I will die.
Babylon's Fall lasted what, like 2 months before they took it offline?
It's just gone? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, you wasted so much. Platinum could have been making Metal Gear Solid Revengeance 2. You know, like, that's a pipe dream, sure, but they could have been making that. But instead, you made them make this soulless, crappy, trend, you know, chasing video game. And
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yikes.
Yeah, totally agree.
But I am concerned with Square though for the future, as far as like things like, you know, Octopath and stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because a lot of their layoffs did affect smaller teams
Yeah.
and some of the teams outside of Japan too. So part of me gets it because it's like, hey, that's part of the industry, and you
Yeah.
can't keep paying people with money you don't have. So I get that. But man, it sucks. It's like what were you forecasting? How much money did you spend on this NFT nonsense and Foam Stars and
Too
Babylon
much.
5 or whatever that was?
I hope they fired
much.
that Foam Stars guy. Like whoever was at the meeting was like, I got an idea. I hope they threw that guy out of a window or something.
Yeah.
Like,
You guys remember Splatoon? We're gonna do
yeah.
that, but
Well, about
foam
that, but like, yeah,
Foamy.
anime.
It's gonna be
It's
foamy.
foamy. Yeah,
with anime girls. It's gonna be great. No, it's
yeah.
not. It's not gonna be great.
The physics on the foam is really next gen. Shut up.
Shut up. It's a garbage game, and just say it. Just
Garbage
say
game
it.
for garbage people.
Yeah, just say it's a garbage game. You don't have to like it because it's exclusive to a console you like. It's just
You
a garbage
don't,
game.
yeah. You're not under no obligation to just
Yeah.
like a game because it's an exclusive. You don't
You
have
don't
to.
have to like
I
it.
promise you, you're absolved.
There's
we're
your
absolved.
permission. You don't have to like it. All right. Well, let's talk about I think something outside of some of the hullabaloo around it. I think it's overall positive. Assassin's Creed Shadows has been officially revealed with the release date, November 15th. Regardless of what we think about Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft for a second, can we all just agree that their trailers slap every time? Their Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed trailers are so good. Like, go back and watch some of the reveals from Origins and from Odyssey and Valhalla. They're just so
Even like
awesome.
dating back to like when they were using like Woodkid, that band for like every, like for
Yeah.
like Assassin's Creed, like I think 3 and 2, or for most of the 2
Three's
runs.
trailer was amazing.
They always like pick a really cool song to play, at the beginning of these things,
Mhm.
and they tend to be CG heavy trailers, but like they tell a cool story, they introduce you to the characters, they introduce you to the time. They give you some information on the surface level that is just cool enough to get you like, oh, all right, okay, I like samurai, sure.
Trailers are always awesome. And I think it's at least worth addressing because people are all talking about it. There's finally a game set in feudal Japan, and one of the two main characters you choose isn't even Japanese. It's a guy from Africa. And listen, I understand why on the outside, without looking at it and thinking about it at all, you'd be like,
Sure.
boy, that seems kind of messed up. Are we going to set a game in Africa and have a Japanese guy be the hero? Probably not. So, like, I understand if you want to do a straw man argument. I get it. And part of me, like, I actually thought that too. I was like, what are they doing? Are they trying to, like, make people, like, what are they doing? I I did have that thought. That being said, if you look at all the Assassin's Creed games, none of them have ever had you play as a historical character, even a fictional version of it. So this is the first time they're actually having you control someone
An
who
actual
was
person that existed.
someone who
Yeah,
existed in
yeah.
history, number one. But number two, I mean, if you look at shows like Shogun or even movies like The Last Samurai, which I understand the criticisms of it, but that's a good movie. I really like that movie.
That movie's so good.
Um,
Yeah,
but
sorry everybody.
it did a cool thing where when you watch that movie, it allows you, and I don't know if they'll do this in this game or not, but I remember experiencing the samurai culture and learning like through Tom Cruise. I know that sounds silly,
Yeah. No,
but
it's not. That's good storytelling. Is using a vessel to explain your surroundings
you're
through
an
the eyes of
outsider.
someone,
Yeah.
of an outsider,
And
which
you're
you
an
are
outsider.
usually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this character, Yasuke, I think is his name,
Mhm.
and then his counterpart, Naoe, I'm not sure how to say her name. They're going to team up together. So you've got one who grew up there and is from there, and she's like
A
the
ninja.
shinobi, right? She's
Yeah.
like the sneaky, and then you've got the big, powerful guy who's an outsider. Um, I feel as the more I thought about this, the more
And
I was like,
she is the daughter of a historical figure as well. So
there you go.
while
Okay.
she is not a historical figure herself, like the likability of this person having a daughter, probably high.
Yeah.
Probably you could even look it up. You probably maybe add, but another in on that as well.
So I mean,
It's
I think it's going to be an interesting story. Now, here's the thing. If the game is really good, I'm talking like Odyssey, Origins and Odyssey levels of good without the criticisms of a Valhalla, a lot of this stuff goes away and people won't care about this anymore because it's going to be that good and it's going to be awesome. If the game isn't great, if the game doesn't deliver, if it's janky and if the story stinks and it really is just like, oh crap, they really were just checking a box here because they wanted some diversity. Okay, then it's a legitimate criticism. But I loved Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla so much. I'm willing to totally give them the benefit of the doubt and assume this is going to be really intriguing and good. That's just that's where I am right now. But who knows?
I
That
feel
could
like
change.
I feel like that's, I don't know, man. When you are in a certain platform on social media, and I try not to like, I try not to go like spiraling down the rabbit hole of it. It's just more of like what I observe, and then I like speak to it. I'm not like absorbing it and then being like, "Arr." But like it is frustrating. But it's like, I don't know, man. The past few years, there's been like this like heavy emphasis on just like all these people out there who play games just don't trust anything. Everything is an agenda. Everything is they're checking off boxes. There is no benefit of the doubt, it seems like, with so many people anymore. And it's so annoying because it's
there's
like
a witch hunt to it, it feels like, for sure.
yeah, because it's like, and then there is, in my opinion, like the element of also racism, because these people are just being like, well, you're just gonna put the black guy in there, and it's like they don't even know that he exists. He is an actual person that they're
Well,
taking
and also
inspiration
tied
from.
heavily to the story that they're telling. This is the time of Oda Nobunaga, who at the time slaughtered like all the shinobi and all the ninja, which is why, you know, the girl is probably so mad and hell-bent on killing him. But also, Yusuke, like, he worked with Oda for the longest time and then had a change of heart and helped, you know, I don't know how much of a hand he had in overthrowing him, but like he had a change of heart at some point, you know? So it's like the story they're telling is
reports
there's
are
a
mixed on whether or not
it,
he
you
ever
know?
was actually a fighter, let alone
Well,
a
so
samurai.
Yeah,
it's
no,
samurai
there is
versus
that,
retainer,
yeah.
right? Is
Yeah,
that
it could be more of a Blackthorn situation where he was just kind of there all the time and advising and kind
From
of, you know,
Shogun,
you
from the
know, but like
Shogun.
never like had samurai armor on and yada yada. But
Right.
you do hear stories about it, like where it's like, well, you heard about times where he would come into town and everyone would be climbing over each other to see him and everything like that. So it's like the mythology is sometimes bigger than the history of it, and they're probably going to lean into both, you know, more the mythology because stories are cooler than history sometimes. But yeah, I mean, we are talking about a real person who really existed, who actually had ties to the times and everything. They didn't just pluck him from a different timeline and just put him here because of whatever, you know, like if he wasn't a playable character, he would most likely be a NPC because he was such a big piece of this puzzle.
Like, let's take Assassin's Creed 2, for example. I mean, Ezio literally, and actually the subsequent games too, Brotherhood and Revelations, like literally works with Da Vinci, right?
Yeah.
He's like boys with Da Vinci. It's like, was that real? No.
Well, Ezio didn't exist.
Exactly. But Da Vinci was
and
there.
Was everybody mad about that? I mean,
no,
you know what
but
I mean?
To be
so
fair,
like,
and this is why I actually empathize with the criticisms across the board. Everything you're saying, Dan, makes sense to me completely. I also do understand in some cases why someone could look at this and be like, really? Like I can at least empathize with the immediate thought of like this does feel like checking a box, because it does feel like of all the stories you could have told, this is the one you went with. I can, because if you look at every other Assassin's Creed game, whatever setting it's in, it features a person of that ethnicity or that country. It's like you're telling a story of that culture, and let's dive into that culture.
This one
Italian,
does too,
Native American. I understand.
The Japanese girl, yeah.
No, I totally understand. I totally understand. And I agree. I think it's going to be really good. I'm just saying from the outside looking in, this looks like the first time that they've looked at the whole scope of what they could tell, and they decided, let's focus on someone and pretend he was a samurai when he wasn't. So I do think there's a fair criticism that I think could completely fade away. Again, if the story's good, if the gameplay's great, then none of this really matters. But if it turns out to be pretty crappy and it feels really ham-fisted in, then I think they've got a problem on their hands. And I don't know. That's just the way
I don't know. I guess I just think the game would be bad. I don't know if it'd be bad because of
not because
checkbox,
of,
you know.
No, but I think then it elevates that issue. You're right. It wouldn't be bad because of that, but it would elevate the issue of like, well, then why did they do this? Like they could have. There's better stories.
Let me throw this out there as a hypothetical. Like, and it's insane to think that because, you know, this is all video games, it's not real. We're making things up. And Assassin's Creed, even though it takes inspiration of actual time periods and places, and it does take actual people and puts it in there, puts their own spin on it. Right. Let's just say Yosuke, if I'm saying that correctly, I might be butchering it. Let's say he didn't exist in history. Okay. Let's say a black man never was in Japan at that time period. Is it actually that big of a deal to create a video game called Assassin's Creed that, again, does take inspiration from time periods and stuff, and do like I don't know if fish out of water is the appropriate description, like story of a person that's not Japanese?
I mean, we got that movie with Tom Cruise, Last Samurai, and we just got this year Shogun. So it is a good way to tell a story.
I think it's a good storytelling hook. I do.
Yeah. Why would that be a problem to just do that completely made out of nothing?
Well, and Yusuke and again, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong as well, but like he's in Way the Samurai. He's a guy you meet under a bridge. He's in that game,
cool.
you know. Yeah, nice. We have Afro Samurai. You have the Yusuke like anime that just came out. There's a lot of like other, and I don't remember anybody ever getting mad and going, "Why is there an Afro Samurai anime? Is it because of the checkbox?" You know, like so I don't know if I.
That's why I was saying the past few years it feels more heightened.
And that's just for me. I understand that everyone's gonna like come at things and look at things differently, but I don't connect to that being like the first thing. I feel like that's like that you're bringing some stuff in. If that's where you go to first.
I agree, but I do understand why I don't trust corporations either. Not necessarily on these issues, but on other issues, whatever, money and allowing them to be creative and all the stuff Phil Spencer has said.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm skeptical of anything a company tells me. So if they tell me here was our motivation and why we did it, I'm not necessarily one who's going to believe what they say off the top of my head. But I also didn't see this and think, Ubisoft has jumped the shark or whatever the phrase would be. Like, oh,
I think this was leaked too. I think we knew about a year ago that this was going to be. I think people were talking about this.
Yeah. So I didn't see this and think, boy, oh boy, are they pushing an agenda? So I do think you guys are right. I think that's a silly way to look at it. All I'm saying is if the game doesn't deliver,
people will weaponize it, and
because it's going to be like, really, you spent all your time trying to check your boxes and not enough time making a good game.
Yeah, I think people will push that agenda. That's you can't. Sadly, there's nothing you can do about that. People are going to
about it. I just hope that it's good. And we actually don't know the motivations of people why they chose that story over a different one. They might have a really compelling.
I know, and like maybe I'm naive, but I always just think people just want to tell a story that they're trying to tell, and like maybe that's super naive. I can maybe even admit that it is just naive, but I do just want to believe that like people just want to tell stories sometimes, and there is a good story here, with a very real character whose mythology is larger than life, So
even when it feels like potentially ham-fisted, like I'm such a I kind of just take things at face value with that sort of stuff that I'm like, oh well, then the story just didn't land. I personally I don't go to these depths of like hate of like you added a type of person or a specific agenda. It's like, to me, it's just the story wasn't written well. The dialogue is poor. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's insane to me how everything has spun into this agenda and politicized and weaponized.
Well, let me ask you this, Dan, because I know you aren't shy about your political leanings, and I totally respect that. If it were switched, let's say the head comes up during that trailer and it's an absolute white dude, like completely from Europe, and everyone on a more progressive or liberal side of things is pissed off. They're the ones yelling about it. Are you also mad with them? Are you like, guys, let them tell a story? Or is this just because of the race of the person and the people who are
you mean with Assassin's Creed?
Yeah.
Yeah. They could have. Yeah, it could have been.
You're irritated at all that. Same what Kyle was saying. You're irritated at the idea of thinking there must be an agenda. Like if it's a white guy, people are gonna yell from the other direction, but about the same thing.
Which we just got Neo, which is a white guy who is the representation of Blackthorn, like that.
I don't hear a lot of people yelling about.
Exactly. It is true. There was not a lot of people chiming in about a white person, being in that game. Or maybe there was. I don't know. I've got no clue. I can't remember.
But I don't know. I don't know either.
You mentioned the Tom Cruise movie and then the Shogun show that just came out.
There was Tom Cruise had its fair share of like, what is Tom Cruise doing in Japan? So
Shogun got blasted by a lot of people, but I shrug a lot of that off. Like, hey, but they're telling a great story and it's got enough historical.
And it actually happened. That guy was real, and he really did. Not to that degree, obviously. I think the story has been spun and stuff like that. But yes, there was an English dude, who was over there. So
I think the only reason I was pushing back a little bit is because I truly do think if it were switched and it's a white guy, I would also be able to empathize with people who'd be mad. Why are you including another white guy in one of these settings? I'd be like, all right, I see your point, but what if it's really good? Maybe there's a good reason to tell it. It's historical,
right.
I guess from my perspective, I'm looking at it kind of from the middle, hearing both sides argue about it. I'm like, yeah, but what if it's a really good story and it's a really fun game to play? Do you really care then?
To me, if you're telling, if the story is written well, the dialogue is good, interesting things are happening.
Yeah.
It's a video game. You're not playing a documentary. Like why?
Yeah, and
why?
I feel like someone else would have to bring it up for me to even probably clock it. Like I really do think I'm that aloof about that type of stuff until like somebody else brings it up, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess there is a white guy in this.
It's to me, it's a
I
piece of
didn't think about
entertainment.
that, but
Yeah.
sure, you know, I can understand because of the culture of things that people will think that way, but my brain just doesn't go there.
You know what's
And
funny?
not for an altruistic, like morally high ground reason. I really just think I'm an aloof type
Totally
that just
get it.
doesn't maybe think
No,
about
I
that
totally,
type
and
of
that's because
stuff.
you're also like a good person, which I can appreciate.
Well, I don't know about that. Yeah.
No, for
No,
real.
it is
But
because we're not boiling everything down to such binary bullshit of like,
Yeah,
oh,
I agree.
yeah, and
X
it is not
person
a
is
moral
here.
high ground stance either. Like
The f-
it's just
the
that
first
I
thing I
just don't
thought,
think
actually,
that way.
when I saw it, the first thing that went through my mind was, oh, I wonder if he's connected with some of the other assassins they've introduced. Like I all of a sudden wondered, like, I
Oh
wonder
yeah,
if they're gonna make
he's
some
the
kind of
assassin. You know, like
connection to they've introduced other, maybe not as main characters, but other African sects of the assassin
yeah,
brotherhood.
the Origins. You know, so like, and
Yes,
this is the
in Egypt,
Origins
of
team. I
course,
heard the
right?
Origins like a lot of Origins comparison, like in all the videos that were shown. It's not
Mhm.
that big of a leap
Yeah.
to think that like maybe he's involved with that in some way.
So that's where my mind went at first, and then I started seeing the hullabaloo, and I was like, "What is wrong with people?" And then I did try to like sit and think about it a little more. Like, all right, outside of the idiots who are going to be mad no matter what, if there's someone who doesn't look like them in a game, that they're idiots. I don't even listen to them. And Dan, you're right. I think there's some elements of that for sure that's out there, maybe a lot even.
Yeah.
But ignoring all that garbage and just thinking about the people who have legitimate, if you can dig through it, there's actually some interesting conversations around it, like why just for this one, and what if the next one is set in Central Africa? Would you have, even if it's historically accurate, someone of a different race be one of your main characters there? And what would the reaction be if you did that, where you can finally play in this traditional African tribe and one of your
Mm.
main characters is Portuguese? I don't care if they're really there,
Oh,
like
dude,
that's not super fair.
it would be bonker. Like
And
people
Portuguese might be more historically accurate too, because
right.
that's
Well,
that's all that
Portuguese
I
would
was
have Portuguese is the guy that brought over Yusuke
that's
as
all that I was
well.
thinking, and
So
it's because I saw
it
some
was.
takes of folks who are actually Japanese looking at it going, part of me gets it because by the way, there's lots of games where I could play as a Japanese samurai, but this feels kind of messed up. That
yeah, and
so
historically, I'll guarantee you the Japanese don't care about this at all. Like they didn't care about the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell controversy. Like they're
Mm.
so like don't give a shit about any of this
yeah,
stuff. We Americans project it as like a
big time,
international issue, you know.
Sure.
big time.
Um,
They also didn't
uh,
really care about Ghost of Tsushima as much as we did either. Like they were like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
But
oh
like,
yeah, absolutely. I think we fetishize samurai in a way that like might
Yeah.
eclipse,
yeah, it's
some of
possible.
the way the Japanese think about it. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting thought piece. I can definitely see where all the thoughts are coming from.
The
You
good
know,
thoughts, by the way. I would never step in to even devil's advocate for someone who's purely just kind of like they see a certain skin color and they're angry. Like they're
well,
idiots, and
yeah, and
I'm not giving them any
can
kind of credence, by the way.
oh, I don't think
Right.
you didn't come
Yeah.
off that way at all. I also think that the series has been playing with this idea of multicultural storytelling because, like in the Vikings one, you had
Yeah.
Muslim characters, you know, and
Yeah.
Mm.
so
Right.
like
Right.
there's always a foreigner
Yeah.
outside element that's inside of this, other culture, and like so it's
Agreed.
not against the DNA of Assassin's
Well,
Creed either,
it's this
Yeah, it's never
whole
been a playable character, even though we did got that character in Mirage. You got that
yeah.
same character from Vikings or Valhalla and Mirage.
In 4,
So
you
it's
also had your buddy who had the DLC spinoff. I forget his name off the top of my head. He's from Africa, though, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
yeah,
It started with a B, maybe.
He was awesome. I just can't remember his name.
Yeah.
yeah, I forget too.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean the Assassins Guild or whatever term you want to
Mm.
throw that. I mean, and um, oh shoot, what the hell are the other guys?
The
Templars.
Templars, thank you. I mean, have existed for thousands of years. So, like, different kinds of people going to different parts of the world, fighting each other. Like, you're gonna see different types of people in different places too. Like,
Yeah.
that's what the series does,
So
right?
maybe this is just the natural progression of that. Also, like now we're gonna tell two stories of two different cultures in the same play. Because like again, the idea's been flirted with before. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at this. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I hope it's just a good video game. Like a lot of really good information out there. We're gonna get another good look at it here in a couple weeks.
I could be wrong. I get the feeling it's going to be a situation where both of these main characters suffer incredible loss and Betrayal and team up together, and it's gonna be great. I have a feeling it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I assume they're at odds to start with 2, since
they're at
Team
odds,
Oda
but they're
and
both
he's
being manipulated or tricked or betrayed or
Absolutely.
something, right? Like she loses family, and he discovers that he's been betrayed or manipulated and used in an evil, like whatever the thing is.
That Oda's more of a tyrant than a savior, which is also very accurate. Depending on what history book you read,
he's like
Oda
brutal,
Nobunaga
right?
is either a hero or a villain. Just kind of depends on what history book.
Listen, I'm intrigued to see the story and see it play out. Just like I've really loved the show Shogun. I loved Ghost of Tsushima.
This is 20 years before Shogun, so same era, know.
Right.
And this is the entrance of guns, because the Portuguese just showed up to the ranks of the Civil War.
I have a feeling we'll be killing a lot of Portuguese on ships at some point.
This is one of the coolest eras
I can't wait to kill
of
my
Japan.
own people.
Kill those Portuguese.
Like, hey, that's my cousin right there.
You know what? I'm just happy that it's not a whole bunch of evil whites in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's finally not a. No, I'm just kidding.
We can get some evil whites. Maybe it's not too late.
Yeah, we can fit them in there. We'll find a way. We'll find a way.
Just wish people would approach things with a more lighthearted. Not everything needs to be, on the internet, on a social media platform, arguing about things that you're not even educated in. Because I mean, I certainly didn't. I knew of Yosuke. I just didn't really know much of anything. But I've been seeing people like. I've seen like some clips of just kind of like breaking down like that era and like the difference between the terms of samurai and retainer and like depending on the era that you're in Japan, like what does that actually mean? Because it wasn't really like the way we look at samurai, I guess now, like in the beginning stages of all that wasn't exactly as concrete and like specific. It was a little more loosey goosey, and then over time it got more specific. So, and that's why people are like, oh, he's a retainer. It's like, well, I mean. But kind of like still counts as a samurai in some ways because
it's cool. And this is one of those times where it's just like, it's cooler if he's a samurai, full blown in the armor, and I'm okay with.
It's just like it's cooler that Da Vinci was what he was in Assassin's Creed, as opposed to like, well, he was kind of an inventor and an artist. Yeah, but he was making cool like assassin tools, like
exactly. These games have always been like a Forrest Gump thing, where it's like, all these characters are loosely connected due to some idiot who's wandering, the United States or whatever.
Or like,
and you're the idiot. You're the Forrest Gump in the story,
In Black Flag, all these famous pirates played very specific roles that maybe that's not historically "quote unquote" accurate. Whatever, man. They were great.
Yeah,
I loved what they did with those guys.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to this game. I will say, I don't think there's anything egregious about story and character selection. What's more egregious is Ubisoft continuing their pattern of the pre-orders and the different editions you have to get and how expensive everything is, and that still feels nefarious, and how it's
and in the past it was very pay to winny, like where, and I know that's like crazy to say like for a single player game, but there was a lot of like, you can get this like rare item or get this rare thing, and you have the $130 version, you get all these extra things to help you level up quicker.
Exactly what it is. $130 is the
I just you brought up in the group, I'm being careful about more pre-ordering. I've never been a pre-order guy. I'll buy stuff the week of, and I'll buy the version that I want to get that makes the most sense to me. And the $130 version for Ubisoft, like I barely get through these games ever. The likability of me getting to the season pass content, unless you're Odyssey, which I will agree, best season pass content ever. So I'd have to hear that. Like I never played the Valhalla. I never got to the end of that game because it just wouldn't end. And the same.
Dude, I didn't even touch the DLC.
Origins, I never.
I did a little
bit
of one of them, but not the
so
Paris
it's just
part.
like you are not getting my money, Ubisoft, and you should cut it out. Like it's really.
What's the highest cost one? Isn't it like 200?
130.
Oh, I thought it was like I thought there was like 200.
Maybe there is like a physical
they'll
one with like
have
a
a physical one, but on their
yeah.
website they list 70 as base price, and then it's like 90 or 100, something like that, is kind of their deluxe edition where you can get it 3 days early and some special thing, and then their ultimate edition, which is 130. And then their fourth option is Ubisoft Plus, because that's ultimately their goal, is get into our ecosystem and pay us money, because you as a customer are worth way more at $18 a month, which is what it is now, by the way. It's $18 a month.
That's insane.
The gross thing to me is the bigger editions, laying all that out, like immediately sending out those screenshots of that, and you didn't give me freaking gameplay. Knock it off. Right? Give me some freaking
I'm with
gameplay.
you. I feel like I'm actually more annoyed at the Ubisoft business corporate practices than I am about anything creatively they've chosen to do with this. Like whatever. I'm hoping the game's amazing. Yeah, Didn't show me gameplay. Apparently, a full reveal is coming next month. Awesome. Can't wait for that. We got a release date. Love that too. But take it easy on pushing the pre-orders. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm less that
I
makes me
will-
kind of feel icky.
I
a
will
little
say
bit.
historically it's always been CG trailers first, so like I
Sure.
expected that, but it always feels gross at the end of that
Yeah.
really beautiful CG trailer. They're like, buy our $130 it does feel gross, you know.
Yeah, it's a little
I
weird.
know people want to see gameplay. I know that's everybody's like want and stuff like that. I'm ready for what they're going to show me, but I'm
too.
never ready for that crap at the end. I'm not. Show me that stuff when you've shown the game, and even then, don't show it because I just don't want you shoving 8 different versions of something down my throat. You know.
I agree with you.
That's what she
I
said.
agree.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, cool. Well, listen, generally speaking, excited for this. If the reviews come out and they're not amazing, I'm very happy to wait until this inevitably drops to like $10 within the first 2 months, as Ubisoft games do, especially when they don't sell super well. So, but if it comes out and it's like, hey, this is a continuation of the greatness of Odyssey and Valhalla, then I'm in.
And this is the coveted Japanese one. This is the one everyone wanted. They're not going to screw this one up. You know what I mean? I'm always
that side
skeptical
stab
of
she
this
did was
stuff.
cool, like that little side.
Oh
the
yeah,
little
like
knife
they
that came out.
changed
Her
the
hidden
they changed
blades,
the assassin's blade. Yeah.
The hidden blade went sideways and she got
Well,
up.
over the games, because the technology that they have or whatever area that they're in, the blade is kind of different sometimes. So
yeah, they got around having to cut off fingers. Good for you, Japan. You did it.
they figured it out.
That's a good
They
point.
figured it out all these years later.
They're like, no, you still have to cut it off. She's like, no.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Yeah.
You
Yusuke's like, me neither. You already
aimed
did
it
it. He was
either
like,
direction.
sorry.
What are you doing?
Well, also too, it's cool because he's like the samurai character, right? So he's not like lurking. He's not an assassin. So his gameplay style is going to be different than her. She's
it sounds like you can
traditional
switch
assassin.
to like in mid mission. You can switch like,
Oh,
okay,
cool.
this part of the mission is probably better for me to use
I love
here.
this
So
big
some GTA 5
mace.
stuff going on here, where it's like, okay, I'm switching from this character to that character because she's more suited for this. Oh, I need to break through the front door of this place. He's more suited for that, you know?
It was funny though at the end of the trailer when the guy is being like with her showing up. I get it. She's a shinobi. She's super sneaky. But how did this gigantic dude in the samurai armor sneak up behind him and say, "We live in the shadows"? I'm like, dude, you're wearing
That armor
gold.
is so loud. Like, have you ever
It's
heard
so
anybody
big.
walk in samurai armor? It's just like it's like walking
Also,
in chainmail. Like
it's
just
gold.
loud.
Like what are you blending into right now? Like
Yeah.
you're not in the shadows. Get out of here. You're glowing.
Yeah.
You're literally
The
glowing.
shadows in Japan
Yeah.
are actually gold, Tim. Did you not
Oh
know
my,
that?
that's my bad.
Yeah, they're actually gold.
It's the
Oh, whatever. That's
land
not
of the
a real
rising sun.
criticism. It's
Yeah,
it was a
land of
cool
the
No,
line.
it's
It just
silly. Yeah, I don't know how he snuck up on them. That's crazy.
It doesn't matter. It's gonna be super fun, guys.
Yeah.
Everyone, just chill out. It's gonna be a video game, and it's gonna be fun. Oh, and by the way, you didn't make it, so if you don't like the way it was made, it's fine. Don't buy it. Just don't buy it.
Yeah, make your own Japanese samurai.
If you're
game.
mad about it for whatever your reasoning, just don't buy it. There's so many other good.
There's
Go play
so many
Ghost of
other games
Tsushima.
coming out.
Play that.
Ghost of Tsushima on PC just came out. Play that. It's so good.
Play that. Absolutely. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Quick hits of stuff that we're playing. I'll just throw out there. I'm playing more V Rising. I just finished the third act. I'm playing that most. Absolutely I love the new stuff that's been integrated into this game. I've gotten to the new area, which isn't just end game stuff. It actually is right in the middle of your experience as you're leveling up. So I have already gotten to experience a whole bunch of new stuff. These new kind of rifts, like this invasion that you can either team up with other players if you're playing, or you can just go do it solo, get a bunch of rewards for it. So I've done that a few times, and yeah, absolutely love V Rising.
It's like Diablo a little bit, yeah.
Super fun. I heard some people compare it to the combat to the way a little bit like a Diablo or Torchlight, but also maybe even more like a MOBA if you've played those games. Just how the combat feels, where it's super fast and lightweight compared to a Diablo, which is a little bit heavier, I guess. But
yeah, that makes sense to me.
And then of course I played some Power Wash Simulator because I was listening to a whole bunch of podcasts and I fired that up, and it's just so satisfying.
Those chore games are the best podcast fodder, man. They are. I play Gas Station Simulator this day while just like throwing out a podcast. I'm just like, let me sell to dumb Jimmy here. He likes his candy bars.
I'm still playing Supermarket Simulator sometimes.
How is that? I actually want to pick that up.
It's actually really fun.
I love those games, man.
I don't mind a good mindless game, whether it's solitaire on my phone, Power Wash Simulator on my computer. Like, I like to have those go-tos where if I'm watching YouTube or listening to a podcast in the background, which is my two go-tos, I've got something to do. I don't mind it. It's fine.
Arcade Paradise is on sale on PSN, by the way. So
So
it's
good.
like $8.
Go
It's like
pick up
$8.
that game, you losers. That game is so good. Yeah.
Super
Everyone
fun.
listening, pick that game up.
Yeah.
Kyle, what are you playing? What are some quick hits for you?
I'll blues breeze through mine real quick. I was playing Stellar Blade. I'm putting that game up. I like the combat so much. I do. That game is very fun, but I have to stop playing it because I think the jumping around, the platforming, the things that you do in between the fights are just like, I don't want to deal with this right now. Maybe at a different time I would be a little more patient, but I have to put that game.
Maybe they were hoping that if they made her attractive enough, you wouldn't notice how bad the platform.
I don't. Yeah, maybe like all the physics, like the jumping's really fun in this game, right? Like, no, there's nothing more miserable than getting around in this game.
Sure.
But the combat is so good, and I think this game is very, very good if you need something like this. If you're looking for kind of like a good kind of hardcore action game, you know.
Yeah.
I'm also played a little bit of Maniac at Tim's suggestion. It is like a mix between Grand Theft Auto 2 and Vampire Survivors. It's very fun. I put like an hour into it. It's just a good time, you know. And I like the graphics a lot. Yeah, it's so good on deck too. Like, it's just good to just like put away real quick. Right now I'm playing as a drunk Santa. My favorite weapon is a flamethrower, and just lighting this entire town on fire is just so much fun. And the last game I'm playing right now,
and it's $4, people. It's $4.
It's $4, man. Yeah, pick it up. And it doesn't look like, you know, like Vampire Survivor. It actually looks like someone really designed this game. You know, no shade on Vampire Survivor. I like the way that game looks. It's just like, it's a different generation of graphics.
It looks kind of like Chinatown, GTA Chinatown a little bit.
Yeah, it actually does. It actually does look like Chinatown.
Well, cartoonier than that, but yeah.
Yeah. It looks like Grand Theft Auto 2. It looks like Chinatown because that is from that perspective. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And the last one I've been playing quite a bit. I'm back on Persona 3 Reloaded. Best PS2 game, as Dan pointed out.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent game, to play today. Man, I hit the big story moment. I'm just like, I'm back in, baby. You know, so I must have left off right at the right spot because I knew when I picked it back up, like I'd hit that hook immediately, and yeah, I'm totally back in. So thanks, past Kyle. You did future Kyle.
Good job, Kyle.
Yeah, you did. There you go.
All right, Dan, close us out. What are some of your quick hits?
Yeah, I think I'm close. I'm probably within a couple hours of finishing Stellar Blade. Yeah, that game's very cool.
It is cool.
Also, I think Eve looks actually cooler. Her outfits are cooler. The ones that cover her up more. Hot take. Whoa. I think they actually look cooler. There's a lot of glowy stuff on some of those suits, like all the kind of like lighty stuff behind her, and like all this kind of like metallic-y like spine stuff going up and down her back in certain outfits. And those actually are the ones that cover up more. So stop being perverts.
White Knight. Right? Keep talking.
I know. I'm not buying this for a second. No, I totally agree. I actually do like a lot of the more covery outfits.
The design, great. The design's game.
I'm actually really eager to always go back to, like when I get a new outfit, I'm like, oh, I got to go back and try it on.
Yeah, I like the one that's it's like red. It is a little more risque, but it's got like her arm looks like it's just all red and like robotic looking. It looks pretty rad. Nice. I like that one. But yeah, it's a great game. It's really fun. I'm enjoying it. And then my wife and I actually finished today Little Kitty Big City. We finished it.
Nice. All right. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Is it fun?
It's actually really fun.
People are streaming the heck out of this game. Yeah.
So the writing is actually pretty charming and pretty funny if you're into just like cozy games or just like games that are about animals or you're playing a cat, whatever. It's pretty cute. And traversing the world almost kind of feels a little Assassin's Creed-esque as a cat. Like you're actually like climbing up certain like areas and like waiting for like these fans to stop spinning so you don't get blown off. And you're actually trying to like kind of climb further up and not fall off and stuff like that to like, get to like little things. You wear
Assassin's
hats.
Cat. I like it.
Assassin's Cat. You find new hats you put on the cat, which is pretty cute. I think it's a legitimately charming and game worth playing if you're into those type of games.
You got Game Pass, so try it.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cute.
I think all the controversy that Ubisoft is experiencing right now with Shadows, if in that trailer the head of the character slowly came up and it was the cat instead, no one would be mad. Everyone would be like, got
I
it.
think you're right, and I'm
The
also
cat.
mad that you're right. So yeah. I'm so upset about like this ongoing like re-Egyptian love that we have for cats online. You know, what if this civilization fails and aliens come down and they find 2 civilizations that obsessed with cats? Like, what are they gonna think? You know, like
Yeah, they're gonna judge us. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that. Yeah. Nice. All right, guys, that does it for us this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for helping us go down memory lane with PS2 stuff and navigating these super fun conversations about things like Ubisoft. Whatever, man. I value your guys' opinions more than I do like the general mass public. So if the 3 of us are on the same page and have decent conversations, you're good people.
Yeah.
So that's all I care about.
I think we're pretty normal and all right. There's some pretty
I
think
think
so,
it's
too.
pretty easy to have conversations with y'all. So
I
I
agree.
wish it was for everybody else, but
I know.
Sure.
I agree. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.